In a scathing rebuke of the Democratic Party, RFK Jr. today announced that he would be throwing his support behind Donald Trump. And just minutes before the start of the show, he spoke with Trump at a rally, and it was incredible. I have tremendous respect for this man. I completely agree with everything as he laid it out. The speech he gave earlier today was incredible. He called out the Democrats as the party of big pharma, of war, of corruption. They no longer represent him. They are no longer the party of his father or his uncle. And for that, this is really amazing. He said he's going to keep his name on the ballot in blue states where he wants you to vote for him. And in the battleground states, he'll take his name off and he's throwing his support behind Donald Trump. This is massive. This is the big news. We're going to talk about this and the polls. We got some other stories to go through. A viral video of Tim Walz yanking on his son's arm. Some say he's just pulling him out of the way of a teleprompter. He almost stumbled into it. Others are saying either way, it's a bit aggressive and it looks abusive. Then you combine that with the video of his kid crying for his dad saying he loves him. And there's a bit of a story there. But it should be interesting. And then we got some news on the Secret Service, who will be reprimanded over what happened in Pennsylvania. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy some Cast Brew coffee. It's pretty good coffee. I think it's the best, actually. We're sold out of we're sold out of Appalachian Nights. I got to tell you, people love this stuff. They love this stuff. But don't worry. You can still get Rise with Roberto Jr., Stand Your Grounds, and Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience. There's only a couple hundred left. Once that's gone, it's gone forever. And then, of course, we got Ian's Graphene Dream. You can also head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to support our work directly. As a member, you'll get access to our Discord server Monday through Thursday. We do the members-only call-in show. So if you're a member, you sign up for $10 a month and you're a member for at least 6 months. You get access to submitting questions. We have to have a screening process because we get weirdos try to come and screw with us. But you can also sign up for $25 a month, bypass that, jump the line, submit your questions, and actually join the show to talk to us and our guests. With your support as members, we're able to keep this show up and running. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we got Clint Russell.
Yo, Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown, co-host of The Best Political Show, co-host of Tower Gang. My list of credits is getting too long at this point. I also ran for the vice presidency under the Libertarian Party. Thank God I came up short. And I happen to be here on a day in which my cold, jaded heart has been inspired by one RFK Jr. I am genuinely impressed by the man, and I cannot wait to talk about it. So thank you for having me.
The hope is through the roof. The white pill is here. We also got Xavier hanging out again.
Thanks for having me back. I'm Xaviaer DuRousseau. I used to be a liberal lifelong, and then I started doing research. So now I'm a PragerU personality and a frequent contributor on Fox, Newsmax, and Piers Morgan. The truth shall set you free. It sure did.
And Ian's here.
Hi, everyone. Ian Crossland here. I'm an actor, musician, Timcast contributor, and a pretty funny guy. I'm also really great at magic. If you listen closely, I might trigger you tonight.
Which kind of magic? Like card tricks?
Yeah,
you
general.
Pull a rabbit from a hat?
No, like real magic.
Really?
Yeah, like changing the way you think and stuff with the magnetic fields and stuff like that.
I forgot you control the weather.
Yeah.
We call that schizophrenia, but, you know.
You'd be surprised. I actually willed
I think
LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers back to the victory.
So you use it for sports.
Yeah, and you can use it during debates, too, to make people screw up when they're talking if you focus on the TV if it's live.
Sure.
So if you don't feel like yourself, you're probably being controlled by Ian Crossland. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a co-host here on the show. I'm a writer for SCNR.com, Scanner News. Follow their work at Timcast News. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started.
Here's the big story, ladies and gentlemen. And RFK Jr. really knew how to milk this one out. They start earlier in the week by saying, we're considering dropping out and endorsing Donald Trump, which sparks a huge press wave. Then the next day, it's sources leak to the press. They're going to do it. And then today they do it, stealing the limelight for 3 days out of the press cycle this week. Very brilliant. Check this out. RFK Jr. says he is suspending his campaign and endorsing Donald Trump. The scion of one of the most famous Democratic families had attracted voters dismayed with the Trump-Biden rematch, but Biden's exit and Harris's nomination upended the race. Now, I don't care to read the Washington Post's filtering of what happened. I'm going to show you a clip. This is what RFK Jr. had to say. And this right here, I think, hits the nail on the head, though it was a pretty long speech. And I feel like everything he said represents so much of what we feel here on this show. It was brilliant, but I want you to listen to this one clip.
I'm sorry to keep everybody waiting. 16 months ago, in April of 2023, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. I began this journey as a Democrat, the party of my father, my uncle, the party which I pledged my own allegiance to long before I was old enough to vote. I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money.
Hear, hear. That was the opening to why he was suspending. You know, he goes on to say the system is rigged. The Democrats threw all of their legal weight against him. He didn't stand a chance. He's clearly pissed at them. And that's why, amazingly, he said he's going to keep his name on the ballot in blue states, and he wants you to vote for him there. He may end up, he actually said there's polling suggesting a tie could take place and a contingent election could see him in the White House. But in battleground states where he may be a spoiler, he's pulling back, taking his name out, and he's throwing his support behind Donald Trump. Check this out. This is another clip. CNN cuts away from RFK Jr.'s speech is explaining how Democrats and their media partners pulled a coup on Joe Biden. So let's we'll jump right here.
They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining...
Cut away.
...led him...
Yo, Fox did cut away eventually, but they played a lot of it through. It's amazing and unsurprising. He ripped the media to shreds. He's talking about how the media is corrupt, how Kamala's got no campaign policies. I could not have said this better myself. He gets up on there and she's like, she has no campaign policies. She's offering nothing. She's not given any interviews. How are the American people supposed to decide between Trump and Kamala when Kamala's not telling them anything, doing any interviews, and the media's covering up for her?
Well, that's exactly the point I was going to go with, is that the contrast couldn't be more stark. Less than 24 hours between Kamala having her biggest moment of her political career and delivering nothing but platitudes, basically a repackaged hope and change, but now with joy and cackles or something. And then you contrast that with the incredible, just apparent sincerity that comes from RFK Jr. in an over hour-long speech that riffs and delves deep into topics that are kind of esoteric. His depth of knowledge when it comes to the chronic health issues that the American people, but he really hammered home the fact that it's really damaging our children. It was so potent and emotional and obviously from the heart. And the contrast between that and the contrived nature of the DNC for the past 3 days could not be more stark. If people are watching both, I don't see how they come away thinking anything other than the Democrat Party has left me.
I'm so inspired by RFK Jr.'s speech because he basically said so much of what we've said on this show. I'm not a conservative. They try and call me far right or conservative, whatever. I feel exactly as he does. And I've been seeing this for a long time. Now, he may be late to the party, and that's totally fine. He is a Kennedy. He is the son of RFK. He is the nephew of JFK. And he is standing up saying, look what has become of this party. And the important thing is he can say it better than me. He can reach more people than me. And so for all of us who feel this way, disaffected liberals, post-liberals, this man just stood up in front of the world and amplified everything we've been trying to say. So now when you're talking to your liberal family member, maybe they're older, maybe they're a boomer, you can say, hey, don't take my word for it. Listen to RFK Jr. These are the Kennedys. Listen to them.
They right when he announced, the media slammed him, and I remember asking my mom, "What do you think RFK?" She's like, "I don't know." He went. This is the same woman that loves RFK Jr. and has loved him my entire life, and talked about how great he is on the environment. Loved Bobby Kennedy Sr., his father. Loved John F. Kennedy, the whole thing. But the media got in on him early, like day one, just so they threw the poison in the well. So I was like, "What are you talking about? It's Bobby Kennedy Jr. He's the man. That's the guy. Yeah. Love
He
him.
hasn't changed since you liked him before.
He's the same guy. Except now he's got a platform."
The Kennedys are Camelot. I mean, they are modern political royalty, up there, if not superseding any living political family. So for him, the son of Bobby Kennedy and the nephew of a former assassinated president, who's beloved by Democrats, the old guard Democrats.
I think he would still be a current assassinated president, just for clarification.
Sorry. But I think for it to come from his lips, as you're pointing out, it's so much more impactful. And, even though I'm a, second gen lifelong libertarian, I also miss the good Democratic Party. The aspects of them that did contrast the neoconservative wing of the GOP when they had lost their minds, when the Christian conservatives were kind of running amok in the 90s trying to ban some of my favorite music, things of that nature, and the Democrats were kind of on my side with these things. Those guys are gone. And I think that it took RFK a lot longer to realize it than it did me. But I think that this is the first step in a healing process that this nation desperately needs, and it needs self-sacrifice. I posted earlier that I had been considering voting for RFK Jr. for many months, primarily because I'm so frustrated with Trump's unwillingness to look back on what transpired in 2020 and just be a little bit more open and honest about it. But it's that level of candor and willingness to take a back seat, self-sacrifice, that like all of my concerns about Bobby Kennedy's sincerity and whether or not this was an ego campaign, they were all assuaged in the same moment that I decided I would probably vote for this guy. He was simultaneously telling me to vote for somebody else. Very powerful moment.
I think he's a really incredible candidate for a lot of reasons. He always had a tough road ahead of him. I mean, if you look even now, his family is releasing this statement saying he's betrayed us all. Meanwhile, they've been actively putting out commercials saying we want him to drop out. He's not one of us. Like, the thing that always struck me about the Kennedy family legacy is a certain level of loyalty, right? Like, they are their own community. If you read any of the biographies of the Kennedy children, like, they thought they were the coolest gang on the planet and they liked being a part of it. And I think the fact that they are so quick to turn on RFK really tells you that this is a family that is in crisis in a way a lot of American families are in crisis. And the fact that he's willing to come out and say, I feel strongly about these issues and I want them to change and I'm willing to take risks for it, I think is inspiring to a lot of Americans. It's very cool to see that.
You said something before the show about you're effectively saying, how could they lose now? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you want to say it again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this tag team represents kind of a binary dissident. I don't know how to put it, like just a team. Like it's the first time I've seen kind of a unified movement in so long. It's the dissident left, the dissident right, and kind of the dissident moderates, if there are moderates left in this country, that I think finally have a home. And it's under, it's really unlikely bedfellows, but I think that there's a real opportunity here, particularly if Donald Trump is willing to put RFK Jr. in some sort of role, be it HHS or, God forbid, the head of the CIA. I don't know how I can't vote for that ticket. And you know how hard that is for me to say, Tim, because I am so frustrated about 2020. But that is such a momentous achievement. If you have the guy he believes this strongly. He's spent the past year plus explaining in detail not just what he believes, but how he knows that the intel agencies were responsible for the death of his father and his uncle. And then Donald Trump reaches out to him and he says, "Hey, you want to be their boss?" That's the end of a movie that I couldn't have written myself.
Poetic justice.
Yes.
But how does Trump lose now? He can lose.
Well,
yes. How does he lose?
Yes, I mean this is my deep concern, and I also posted about this earlier. Shout out to the Hodge twins; they responded on it, and unfortunately they agree with me. I think that because if you're as convinced as I am that some sort of intelligence agency took a shot at Donald Trump, because he will almost certainly skyrocket in the polls as people kind of realize that this has a real viable path to victory. I think that the odds that the intelligence agencies take another go at him increases exponentially, and it makes me very nervous. So I think that the razor's edge that the Trump campaign has to walk over the next 75 days is that they have to keep this race or the polls close enough that the deep state, if you will, believes that it is within the parameters of fortification. However, it is actually close enough that it's not.
Yeah. And
I don't know if they can find that balance where they still think they can do it, but they just happen to be wrong, and therefore they don't take Trump out. This is why I'm so nervous about the next 75 days, and even beyond that. I mean, even if you were to
with RFK's speech, we could be looking at 2 to 5% is what he's polling at on average. His average in 530 is 4.7. Mm-hmm. If out of that 4.7, 70%, let's just say 3% switch to Trump, he can't lose. I mean, 3%, that means that's a 6-point swing between the two candidates.
Yep.
He can't lose. He can still lose, though.
Yes. Exactly.
Because we're looking at shadow campaigns and quote-unquote fortification. That's scary.
Yeah.
I think nothing's for sure. It has been a really interesting week for the Trump campaign. I mean, Tim's already alluded to this, but the media cycle during the DNC, with the RNC, so much of it was still dominated by the attempted assassination and what was going on at the convention. Joe Biden did a couple rallies. It really wasn't getting the airtime that I think they were hoping it would. But this week, especially with the Theo Vaughn interview, which I think really opens a lot of moderate or maybe just not very political people up to what Donald Trump is like. Yep. And the kind of long rollout of this long-awaited RFK-Trump merger, so to speak, it is really the first time I feel like the Republican ticket has taken back the news cycle from a very dominant pro-Harris messaging that we've gotten since July.
And they did it during the DNC.
During the DNC.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so powerful.
She couldn't sustain the attention that she had before.
So they lied about Beyonce showing up.
Right.
Amazing.
They were so desperate, they're just making up special guests.
Check this out. We got this story from the Daily Mail. The chart that shows why RFK Jr. dropping out could decide whether Trump or Harris wins the election. That being said, this is news for Donald Trump. This is good news. Take a look at this. So this is from their poll. 51% of people who said they were going to vote for RFK Jr. say they would vote for Donald Trump, 26% for Kamala Harris, 23% don't know. Let's just put it this way. 4.7% aggregate, according to 538 for RFK. Let's say 2.2% of voters, because this is all, 2.2% of voters switch from RFK to Trump. That boost, Kamala Harris can't make up.
Right.
That two percentage points is a massive boost. She's going to be behind and struggling to keep up. The basement campaign, I think, can only go so far. And she's now following actually during the DNC, the prediction markets are starting to favor Donald Trump. So he's starting to improve in a lot of areas, in the betting markets especially. And now with this RFK endorsement, they just stole the entire DNC. This was supposed to be Kamala Harris wrapping up Thursday night at the DNC with what Jonathan Chait calls the greatest acceptance speech I've ever seen. Oh, spare me, dude. But during the week of the DNC, the news is stolen by Nicole Shannon saying, we're considering endorsing Trump. Everyone then turns their head from the DNC. Yep. The next day, sources leak. They're going to do it. And then the day after Kamala Harris gives the speech, RFK steals the thunder with the speech in the evening and then a primetime rally with Trump, ensuring that all of the headlines that we're going to be sharing and we're going to be talking about ain't going to be Kamala Harris.
I guarantee Kamala just lost a lot of voters, too, that weren't even planning on voting for RFK. Because if you think about what he was saying in his speech, like the Democratic Party literally runs in his veins. Yet he's up here saying that they have completely alienated everything that we've ever stood for. And looking at like all the censorship that has happened, everybody knows Big Pharma is corrupt. Everybody knows these different things are going, or I shouldn't say everybody, because a lot of people haven't woken up yet somehow. But a Kennedy being up there exposing all of that and saying that the Democrats have left him, that's profound. Like, I don't think people have really let that sit in, just how profound it is for a Kennedy to get up there and say that the Democratic Party is not what it used to be. Because many moderates, if you talk to them now, they identify as Kennedy Democrats still all these years later. And that side of the party is just completely annihilated.
Well, that's exactly why the media came out all those 15 months ago when he first announced and tried to immediately kookify the guy. They tried to make it so that even though he makes incredibly cogent and compelling arguments. They wanted him to be persona non grata from Jump Street so that any of his very valid arguments would not be heard by those people, because they still look to the corporate media and they take their signals from them as to who is reputable, who should I listen to. And they knew that he would be a very damning character to be on the political landscape, and they were right, because even with them demonizing him for 15 months straight, he still left an indelible mark on this race.
I think the only reason his polling starts dropping is not because anybody was like he's a bad guy. It's because people started saying it doesn't appear he has a path to victory.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. RFK fought as hard as he could, and then he said, okay, Trump it is.
Right.
And I gotta say that what you guys are saying about that he's going to win with 2.2% for sure, like in a free and open and fair election, that is true. But the dark magic involved right now, which I'm concerned is that the empire has dominion over our voting systems. It's a good bit of to say Dominion is hyperbolic, but you understand they named that company Dominion. That's wild. That it's like meme magic. Like it's as if they want us to know that they have dominion over the voting system. I don't know, but it's mechanical electronic voting that they can flip behind the scenes. I am damn concerned about that, man.
I mean,
but I agree. But I would just broaden that and say fortification. That's what they call it. Fortification could take any form. Now we've seen in Virginia that they're saying it's going to be all paper ballots. If more red states make those moves, that's good news. But this is Virginia. Virginia's supposedly supposed to be blue. I'd be willing to make a bet, and I don't know for sure, but I'd be willing to make a bet. With Virginia going all paper ballots, it turns red.
Interesting. You might be right.
Obvious reasons.
Yeah, no, I think, you definitely could be right. I share your concern, but this has always been my thesis, and I never really bought into Trump's narrative about the 2020 election and vote flipping day of. Not that I didn't buy into it. I just didn't have evidence to prove it out. What I am confident of, though, and they were brazen enough to brag about it in that notorious Times article where they talked about the cabal of elites that worked in tandem behind the scenes, not to steal the election, but rather to fortify the election. Like it's such an absurdity. It's like a Bond villain. They have to tell you what they're going to do.
I want to make a point somewhat outside of this conversation to stress how important it is that right now we get a candidate at least who's talking about ending war.
Yep.
Ukraine has invaded the Kursk region of Russia.
Big deal.
This is Western forces, NATO weapons and intelligence and money being used to invade and attack Russian civilians. Kursk issued an evacuation on 130,000 civilians. Putin's probably happy about it. He can use this for mass mobilization. But if this escalates, we're now talking about an invasion of Russia, and Ukraine is what? What is Ukraine, right? It means borderlands. No disrespect to Ukrainians. I think it's a great country. It get invaded, none of our business. We get involved, an invasion of Russia. Russia is a world power. This could be a spark that escalates the current conflict into something substantially more dramatic.
Agreed.
I don't know that Trump solves the problem. I guarantee Kamala, who's in the office now, will make things worse, as they actively are.
Exactly.
The idea, and this is what RFK Jr. started talking about. He started talking about the war in Ukraine and the funding and everything they're doing is driving us towards annihilation. Donald Trump may not solve all of our problems, but at least he's the guy who's saying, when I was president, we did not have this war. Putin backed off. We got rid of ISIS. We worked on peace agreements. You've got a choice. Donald Trump is the least perfect guy for the job for sure, but he's the best person we've got right now. And if he does bring peace, this could avert an existential threat to humanity.
You're not overstating it whatsoever. I mean, I remember I debated Destiny in Tennessee almost 18 months ago now. By the way, all of his predictions during that debate were wrong. Destiny. I'll be waiting for your apology.
Sure.
Anyways, it's a really big deal, man, and it's just a catastrophic loss of life. From libertarian, I'm a hardcore non-interventionist, anti-war person. Like that to me is the most compelling argument for Donald Trump. And I still believe that despite the fight moment is probably the most courageous and will go down in history as the most memorable aspect of this campaign. For me, the most memorable thing or the most important thing he said was when he was doing the CNN town hall and he said, I just want people to stop dying.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was so powerful. It was so profound. It was so simple, but so beautiful because we never hear it by these scumbag politicians who want endless wars. He clearly does not. This is how I was talking about RFK Jr.'s sincerity. Trump is also sincere in this regard. I do believe that.
Trump doesn't want to rule the world.
Right.
The military-industrial complex does. They want to take Ukraine. They want to shut down Russia. They want to control Russia so that Russia can't overcharge Europe for gas and energy, so that we can expand the NATO power and economic bloc, so that we can create a quote-unquote new world order. And I'm not talking about a new world order as a proper noun. I'm talking about what George H.W. Bush said in the early 90s about how the liberal economic order would transform into some kind of new type of world order.
Right.
That's what they want. Trump doesn't care. Trump says, Russia, make your oil, trade your oil. Be Russia. We're gonna take care of America. Don't screw with us or we'll nuke you. And Russia's like, okay. And they back off. We had in Ukraine the escalation, the ousting of Yanukovych, and the building up of troops by Russia on the border. Trump gets in. Everything stopped.
But didn't he send a bunch of money to Ukraine or weapons?
Congressionally approved.
Yeah.
So Trump has limited authorities. But the point is, while he is far from perfect, he did a lot of Tomahawk missiles into Syria.
There's only
Big mistake.
Only so much you can do as the president, as the commander of the ship, as the pilot. You can't just hit the brakes on the airplane or everything falls. So.
It's true. But as our chief diplomat negotiating with these other powers, we got no new wars for the first time in my life.
Yep.
And so when I'm looking at that and I'm looking at Kamala Harris, who's in the administration now, and we're on the brink of World War III, I'm like, Trump, please.
Exactly.
That's why it's crazy that Kamala Harris really got on that stage yesterday and made it seem like Trump was this communist authoritarian who started all these wars and created all these conflicts. It's like this was during your time in the White House. I don't think enough people are paying attention to the fact that Kamala Harris acts like she has not been in the White House the last 3.5 years. Like, you have been a part of every negative decision that has led to our downfall, but you want to blame Trump when he hasn't been in the White House since 2020.
And can you imagine the girl boss attitude if she goes to have a negotiation with Putin, right? I'm speaking. Like, this is not someone I want representing our country in a potentially tense situation. She's not charming enough to get elected by her own party fairly. I don't want her representing us, especially with people who feel like we've been actively funding their enemy.
It was a couple years ago, but she was actually asked about the Russia-Ukraine war, and she goes in this long soliloquy about how Ukraine is a smaller country and Russia is a larger country, and she's just such an imbecile. It's embarrassing that they would even attempt to foist her upon us. But you guys are all obviously correct that she would be an existential danger, not just to the American people, but to the entire globe, put in the role of negotiating peace.
We got some big news that dropped just before the show. This is a tweet from Jack Posobiec. Breaking, President Trump announces he will establish a presidential commission on assassinations to be headed by RFK with full power to declassify all documents related to JFK, RFK, and J13.
Oh, wow.
Poetic justice.
Wow. You mentioned before.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, dude. I have to gloat a little bit longer about I want RFK Jr. to be in charge of the intelligence agencies, and I want him to just get on stage and be like, I'm declassifying JFK. Here you go. They killed him. My uncle. They killed him.
I want to see him do that for poetic reasons, but I really do want him to be involved with Health and Human Services, right? Like someone who is really passionate about fixing the problems that we have with Big Pharma and our food supply. I think that would be fascinating because I just think so many people who are in that position right now are sort of like from the system. They've been a bureaucrat or they've worked for pharmacies.
I bet, though, the head of the CIA, if you could have the secret police investigating those people, that would be very important, because if there really are big bureaucrats manipulating our food supply, the FDA might not even be able to figure it out, but the CIA can get down to business.
Yeah,
The question I'm asking, though, is after RFK gets in there, he clears house, he exposes everything, because at this point, like, we all pretty much know the CIA killed JFK, let's be honest. But when all of that gets declassified, then what? What is like our next step? Because it's about to be turmoil when all these secrets start to unravel. Because I can only imagine the things that we don't know or that we have been completely led astray about. It's like, who gets held accountable? Do we just abolish the CIA? Like, what is the next step after that?
Probably it'll get plastered as fake news, and then half the country will believe it's fake.
It's censored on the internet. You get deleted on Instagram if you post it. Fact checkers arrest you.
Yeah, but they
doesn't
can't
really matter what the media does, because if he actually gives him that power to declassify, and then Trump can respond with executive orders and things of that nature to actually go after these folks, they could do it. It's going to come down to AG.
I think the dam is broken.
Yeah.
They are struggling to maintain narrative control. RFK got up on stage. He took a sledgehammer to the TV. We got this clip. Benny Johnson posted it. Trump is conducting an independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. Let's listen.
Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes.
How does he make that sound funny?
Seriously.
Encouraged by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right
That's a cool
for the
shot
country.
right
That's
there.
one thing I can tell.
I should be his VP, man. I mean, it's too late.
I would have loved that.
That would have been big.
He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts.
Wow.
And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
Does he go so far as to actually appoint RFK to it?
So that's what Jack said.
Okay.
This clip doesn't mention it, but I think he said RFK Jr. would.
Man, if
He
he
said in
gives him
honor
that
of him,
power,
he'd do an independent commission. He didn't say that he put him in charge of it.
yeah, but still, I mean, still,
Well,
it's,
the clip
it's a
cuts
big
short.
step. It's a big step. If just imagine, like, he's been on this like Homer's Odyssey to figure out who took out his father and his uncle, and then he's just like all of a sudden given the power to declassify the documents to actually prove out the case. It's a really profound thing. It is.
I think people need to pause and think about the personal in the story of the assassinations of JFK and RFK. We hear these from a great historical context. We talk about the grassy knoll and the magic bullet theory and things like this, right? And so for us, it's this surface level history lesson. We learn about it. This is his dad. Trump is saying you're finally going to get the documents about who killed your father. Well, I mean, just imagine how you would feel if you lost your dad and someone said the keys, all the answers you've been waiting for your entire life are standing right in front of you.
This is Bobby Kennedy Sr. is his dad. We got assassinated by Sirhan. This is the official narrative. In the
RFK Jr. does not believe that.
In a kitchen, like he's walking through a kitchen to get to a speech after a speech, and some guy runs up to him, and then but there's a guy behind him with a gun
we
too.
talked about this a little bit before the show, but RFK was repeatedly denied Secret Service protection. And I know the Biden administration pushed back, said, initially when he asked for it over a year ago, you're only supposed to get 120 days before the election. He got it less than 100 days before the election because of the assassinated on Trump's life. The reason that provision exists at all, the reason that Secret Service protection is offered to major presidential candidates is because his dad was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't imagine being in this position where these historical precedents aren't just like because of someone you've heard about on the news, but because they are active threats to your family that cause all of these rules and ways that we view presidential and political security to change. Like that's deeply profound. And I think, the thing that struck me the most about RFK Jr. when he was on the show was that he was just very authentic. He was very sincere. And I think that this is something that resonates with a lot of Americans who are frustrated with sort of the political rhetoric. Like, that's what I felt most from Kamala's speech last night. She was just sort of tap dancing around the points she's supposed to talk about, and then she's, smiling and waving and exiting the stage. She's not offering anything. I mean, opportunity economy, what is she even saying?
I want to play this clip real quick. I'm trying to find where Trump does say it'll be RFK. This may be it.
And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
I'm going to put his nephew in charge. He's so cool.
And they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents.
Yeah, I don't think he says
the
it.
Kennedy.
I don't know.
And this is a
Before the show, Clint, you mentioned that they asked Trump before why
he says in honor of Bobby, not that he's actually giving him the right.
They asked Trump before why he didn't release the documents, and you said that Trump, his response was, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't have released them either.
That's what he told Judge Napolitano, and I take him at his word that that's how it went down. Now, the question is, what did he see? And the obvious, my obvious suspicion or conclusion that I come to is that, well, it's because the agency that is responsible is American and it still exists. Because otherwise, why would you not tell the truth?
I think that's why Lyndon Johnson wanted to shut it down, because it would have caused a civil war if they saw that our own agency or the mafia was involved with our own agency or the Russians were involved
According
with
to
our
Roger
own
Stone,
mafia and our own
Lyndon
agencies.
was in on it. So
Lyndon was in on it?
Yeah.
According to Stone?
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a plot where they go to him and they say, if this happens, are you game to take over? And he says, you got it.
Sometimes, but like I don't think Bush was involved with 9/11. He just looked like
totally
a
different.
Kinda, but they used him and he bought the narrative and played along with it, but he thought it was real. Like, I think Lyndon Johnson, but maybe Lyndon Johnson knew
I think
more.
you are completely wrong about 9/11, and you are conflating two totally different things.
Well, I don't always think the figurehead knows what's going on. Sometimes
that's certainly true. But I think in this instance, I'm gonna rely on Roger Stone, who's done a lot of research in that arena. I don't know for a fact, obviously. I mean, this is what we're waiting for, is to know for a fact. We need these documents to be declassified so we actually know what happened.
Yeah, look, if someone asked me to put money on the table, and your bet was CIA did it or official narrative, I'm going CIA did it every time. Come on,
maybe the mob, because they were hard. The Kennedys were hard on the mob.
They probably worked in tandem.
Yeah, I think that the easy bet is official narrative is false.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah. The Lee Harvey Oswald story is ridiculous. Yeah. The guy, his gun was in the same building as him after the shooting. He was eating lunch.
The single bullet theory is the biggest absurdity.
Like, dude, if he had done it, he wouldn't have been sitting in the building eating lunch afterwards. He would have fled the scene.
Right.
It's such a ridiculous story.
And then was it Jack Ruby?
Yeah.
He dies right afterwards as well.
He took out Lee Harvey Oswald and then immediately gets killed.
Yep. Tying up loose ends, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mafia, maybe.
Have you guys ever been to the Sixth Floor Museum in Dallas, the museum dedicated to the assassination? I find it really fascinating. You can go there and you can look at like the spot on the ground where the bullet hit JFK. But really, what's fascinating is that so many people go there and have questions and talk about it. And if you stand on the sidewalk outside where you can look at where the shot was, you can hear people talking about like, oh, I don't think this really happened. And so the fact that this is something that Trump wants to talk about at all, or that RFK potentially could be kind of leading the narrative on, I think draws in a lot of voters who are not necessarily political, but do not trust our government. I think a lot of people have lost faith in any form of government in this country. And
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I know that. But I think, but you are political. I mean, you're
very
an active libertarian. I think just run-of-the-day Americans who, they might cast a ballot, they're maybe not consistent, but they look at their local, state, and federal government and say, you do not serve my interests, you serve your own interests. I think the fact that there would be transparency on this front would be sort of a way to connect with disenchanted Americans.
See, I think that's the thing that I like most about Kennedy is he has kind of the childlike, and I say this not in a condescending or insulting way, but he has a childlike naivete that these institutions at their core are intended to benefit the people, and that they're capable of that, and they ought to, and that I'm capable of remedying what ails these institutions. It's like, I think he's out of his mind. I don't think there's any chance you could actually reform the CIA or the FBI, but I love the idea of a guy who's a true believer actually giving it a go. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's way better than Pompeo or any of these other scumbags that are in positions of power. Burns right now, it's like these guys are super dangerous. Burns was the ambassador to Russia when they were talking about the Maidan revolution. They were talking about how basically it's the reddest of red lines. If you were to proceed with adding Ukraine into NATO, it'll basically force our hand. And like Burns was the American ambassador to Russia during that junction, and then he goes on to become the CIA, despite the fact that we're now in a proxy war with Russia because those warnings were ignored. It's crazy. But anyways, that was a weird tangent. I just wanted to say I do like the idea that if we're not going to go full libertarian minarchism, I like the idea of having a true believer who's trying to actually like really reform these institutions.
All I can think about right now is getting drunk and celebrating and ordering a bunch of pizzas. Like, I can't.
You think it's over?
Tim doesn't drink
No,
alcohol.
I'm
That's the
saying
best
like,
part.
I don't. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
I feel so optimistic. The hope is through the roof. Seeing all these clips that people are posting on X of RFK Jr. walking out this filled stadium arena, RFK Jr. standing there with Donald Trump and everything they're saying about the assassinations, I'm like, it's like the veil has been lifted.
Yeah,
And now we still have to win it.
Yeah.
But today is a good day.
no time to celebrate. It's like that's what the British did on Christmas Eve, right before George Washington sailed across the Delaware and slaughtered them all. They all got drunk, partying because they thought they had it in the bag.
Oops.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think the other interesting angle with this announcement from Trump is that he's gone out of his way to not badmouth the Secret Service, even though they failed in such an egregious fashion that he nearly lost his life. And I can't decide if it's that he doesn't know what I know already about the details because I've been researching this nonstop to actually figure out what transpired that day, or if he's afraid of them, or if he's biding his time and he's being a tactician about this, realizing that he still has to rely on them to keep him alive and he doesn't want to call them to the mat while he's still relying on them for his own safety.
I think that's what it is, because it's like that's a very dangerous position to be in. It's like these are the only people whose entire job is to protect you, and they're also the people who are in cahoots to try to kill you. So he's kind of in this catch-22. But I feel like once he gets in the office, like maybe there's some way that he's able to clear that out and like get a whole new system in there.
There has to be a way. I mean, the stand down or just DEI obliteration of their capacity. I don't know. I don't think that's what it was. I'm just saying that's the most benign answer, and I also think it's the most absurd.
There are pictures of crooks walking around with a long gun.
Yep.
That was a stand down order.
Yep. I agree. Because how do you not arrest that kid and question him? It's an absurdity.
There was a man walking around a Trump rally with a rifle.
Yep.
End of story. Sir, you can't have that here, okay? Leave the rally. Like, this is the president we're talking about. They did nothing.
It's the video of him climbing on the roof for me, because he's this 20-year-old, unathletic, skinny, scrawny kid who can barely even hold this gun. You see him dragging his body up on the roof. There's people yelling like, he's on the roof, he's on the roof. It's like, there's no way that Trump hasn't seen that. There's no way that people in the Trump administration haven't seen that. So he knows what's going on.
There was breaking reports this morning that the Secret Service higher-ups had told lower-level Secret Service agents not to request additional security details. Apparently, they only authorize – this is breaking news this morning, so I have not had a chance to verify it. But,
let's pull it up.
Okay, go for it.
We got this from Post-Millennial. Secret Service HQ told agents not to request more security for Butler rally, where Trump was shot, according to a whistleblower. Senator Josh Hawley released a letter Friday that revealed new whistleblower allegations. The Secret Service headquarters had told agents in charge of the trip not to request more resources for the Butler, PA rally. Due to security failures, would-be assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks was able to take shots at Donald Trump. The more we learn about this, now HQ said don't request more security. You line these pieces up, they won the lottery twice in a row. I don't buy it.
Yeah. Well, then add to it that Donald Trump, since he left the White House, had not had a counter sniper team on his detail. The first time they finally do it, and by the way, based off of these disclosures, it's also included that it was not until 24 hours prior to this event that they finally authorized a counter sniper team to be on his detail. And 24 hours later, a bullet grazes the right side of his head. How is it even possible that that's coincidental?
And is it true that counter sniper team did not take the first shot in retaliation?
They did not take the lethal shot, is my understanding, but I don't know. I don't know for sure that that's been like conclusively answered.
I heard today that 5 Secret Service agents resigned.
Put on leave.
Put on leave. Is that because of this?
In connection to this, I mean, the head of the Secret Service right now is saying, well, we don't want to rush to any conclusions, which I know you're not rushing. This has been over a month.
It's been 6 weeks, dude.
It's not no rush at all. But, I think something you were mentioning before is that Trump does go out of his way to praise Secret Service agents that he works with closely. And the Trump family was doing this at the RNC as well. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting because so much of what happened seems to be a difference between the Secret Service that's sort of headquartered in Washington operating and the agents that are actively with the Trump family. I'm not saying that they couldn't all be working together or getting some kind of memo, but there seems to be obviously a divide in communication, because one of the reports that came out was that, the Trump's team had no idea that there was an identified threat before they sent him out on stage.
Right.
You guys are at the same event. How is this not communicated at all? And it makes me think of kind of Trump's history with staffing. He would back people that I didn't think were good. I think a lot of people were critical of, but he kind of stood by them. There is a loyalty streak to Donald Trump that I think sometimes might be misplaced.
Yes, but I don't think that loyalty streak extends to him losing his life, and he almost did. So I think I personally lean towards him biding his time. But I want the the listeners to remember that it was 48 hours later that the RNC goes off, and you would have had a different nominee. While the nation was in mourning, they would have clearly foisted Nikki Haley upon us, while also painting this absurd, contrived narrative that the Iranians were responsible for the attack on Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And then, what do you know? We have two candidates that are perfect puppets that are both hawkish towards Iran, and now we have our war that we've been waiting for 20 years. Yeah. I mean,
the people who believe that Donald Trump staged the assassination blow my mind. They think these are the. What was it Michael Malice was saying? These are the people who are saying, why don't you just shoot the gun out of his hand when the cops are dealing with the guy?
Right.
That Donald Trump turned his head and got hit in the ear. They genuinely believe either the person aimed for the ear or Trump hit a gel pack in his hat to fake it. Why is his ear healed? I mean, dude, it's like 2 weeks later. His ear healed. What are you talking about?
In defense of the crazies, if there was a president I thought that could pull that off, it would be the guy who was in the WWE for years, because that's what wrestlers do. They would cut themselves. But look, I've watched the footage extensively. Corey Compratore clearly lost his life thanks to a headshot from lead that's moving extraordinarily fast. So I think it's an absurdity to believe that was a
And I don't think Trump needed to. He was already leading Biden. Biden was in bad shape. Like, that's something you do if you're behind and you really need to surge forward. Trump doesn't need to risk his own life or stage an attempt on his own life.
Secret Service wouldn't have resigned if it was fake. None of them would have resigned.
And then consider the other angle of this. If you're going to do that, that means that you've sold out. That for whatever reason, because if you remember, CNN and all these organizations that had never been covering Trump's rallies, suddenly we're all covering that rally.
I don't know that's true.
Well, based off of what I read, it was, but I don't know.
When the day that happened, everybody was saying that, and I could not find any clips from CNN or other outlets that were live during the rally.
It was live streaming on their website. I don't know if it was on their channels. But
maybe. Yeah. I couldn't find any videos for that. So
really? Okay.
I could be wrong. Okay. I said, okay, I need to verify this, and I was unable to confirm it. So my position is, I don't know that's true.
That's fair. Then I'll hold off on that.
Because that implies foreknowledge.
Well, exactly. And that's what a lot of people were thinking, is that if this is a put on by Trump that Trump is in on, well, then you don't see the story buried over the next 3 weeks. You see it upsold by the media because they have apparently become an unlikely team. I just think it's BS.
Yeah, I think even defending that narrative that it was fake is a mistake. It's like defending that he pooped his pants.
I was jokingly defending it, just to be clear.
But I don't even want to deign the conversation with respect, because it's so asinine to consider that.
Xavier, do you have an opinion on Trump's assassination attempt and how it affected independent voters?
I think it woke a lot of people up to just how irrational and extreme our voting process, or just our election process, has gotten. Any sane person isn't wanting to see a presidential candidate get assassinated. Like, as much as I can't stand Kamala Harris, I would never wish that upon her. So I do think it swayed a lot more independent voters to look deeper into, okay, what is actually happening here? Why are they so desperate to take him out? And what is it that they're so afraid of him doing that they're trying to do this for? But I definitely think it was something that the CIA or the Secret Service was in on. I think that's pretty clear just based on the evidence that's going on. But like you were saying, Ian, to say that it was, and I know you weren't saying it in a serious manner, but entertaining the idea that Trump was in on it, it's just not worth it. What would he have benefited from that? Mm-hmm. If it would have, that so easily could have went the worst possible way. So I don't think that there's any way that would have benefited Trump.
Then you also have to believe that Trump is okay with some of his most ardent supporters taking live fire directly behind him. It's an absurdity.
Of course, these people think that, though.
Yeah.
These Democrat voters,
because they think he's a monster. Yeah.
They live in TV world. They think they're in a movie, and Donald Trump is the supervillain. Trump was already president for 4 years, and it was relatively mundane, except for COVID.
Agreed.
The problems of the Russia Gate scandal, those Democrats who did that. Trump wasn't doing nothing.
Right.
Then the Ukraine Gate scandal. Once again, Democrats did that. They live in this broken reality. I don't know how these people break out of it. That's why I'm so excited about the RFK Jr. thing, though, because that is a sledgehammer to the 1984 TV screen. of Big Brother. There's a sledgehammer to Big Brother's TV, because a lot of people are gonna have to now reconcile. RFK Jr. is saying these things. That's tough. And I know, like you're saying, some people might, like Ian was saying, the media got to him early to try and poison the well. It's still a powerful force that's going to be hard for people's cognitive dissonance to reconcile. That RFK Jr. says, this is not the party of my family. I can't support this. And they're going to have to now contend with, is he a fascist too?
Right.
I don't know how.
Bobby should go on the podcast market hard now. Now's the time to keep this message amplifying of why he's.
I think we'll see a lot more of him for sure. I think, partially now because he is a part of the Trump campaign in a way, and I think he does have an influence with a lot of people, but also because he said, I'm going to take my name off the ballot in swing states, but I'm staying on everywhere else. Like, he is actively still kind of on the campaign trail, which is a very interesting position to be in. But I think Tim's right. I think Democrats do live in TV world, and this is partially because they bring out every celebrity they can during their convention. But also, one of the people that made me laugh, I can't remember the actor's name, but he spoke on night one and he placed that terrible president on the show Scandal. Like, their best choices are just soap opera like fake politicians, and I think that's really how they govern a lot of what they're doing. It's all viewed through the lens of entertainment and Hollywood.
House of Cards, that was a show that got people primed to hate a corrupt president. Marvel movies get the hero-villain narrative embedded in people's minds.
And then what did they do for Harris's campaign? They were like, how can we allude to any popular pop singer right now, right? Like that is really their game plan, to make it seem like she's not just like this mysterious figure who suddenly popped up after kind of being semi-absent in the White House that she's got her name on for the last 3 years. They're making it seem like she's your cool, trendy aunt.
She's having a brat summer. I think one of the other lessons that we learned from the assassination attempt is that left-wing and legacy media overall, to be honest, is not doing a good job of adapting to the fact that we are able to access information much faster than they can craft a narrative. Because right after they tried to shoot Donald Trump, or literally shot him, you see all these headlines talking about it was glass, or something bounced up, or there was loud noise, like those fraudulent headlines that really, as someone in Gen Z, like, that was insulting to my intelligence. Like, you really think that you're just going to put a headline in front of me saying that there were loud noises, or I even saw one saying that Trump fell. You're going to tell me that he fell? I just looked on Twitter and saw all these videos of this man being shot, and you're going to gaslight me and tell me that he fell? They're not adapting well to that. They can't control the way that we are perceiving information when we're able to access it now in real time.
Here's another thing to add too. RFK Jr.'s endorsement is an open door now for a lot of people who can now feel safe to somewhat get behind Trump. So there could be personalities who are not pro-Trump before who might be like, well, I still have some deep concerns about him, but I trust Bobby. And so this opens a pathway now where he's bridged some of the more moderates who might have been scared to speak up, might actually speak up.
Well, it puts me in that position where I was heavily considering. I talked to Ian about this regularly. Like, I thought that while I like Trump obviously better than Kamala, I still thought that what Bobby brought to the table, kind of broadening the Overton window on topics that I really care about, I was like, I might just vote for this dude, even though I disagree with him on many things too, obviously. But now he's off the table, and it's like, all right, well, it's communism versus Trump. It's not a real hard selection at that point.
That and if Trump brings RFK into his administration for Health and Human Services to address those issues,
huge deal.
That's basically Trump saying, I might not admit it, but I'll put a guy you like in charge of it. How about that?
What concerns me, I guess, a little bit is it's a lot of changes. They're talking about doing a lot of changes away.
We need it.
We do need it, but can it happen?
Well, I don't know, but not a lot changed during his first term, so I would like to see. He's only got one term left, right? So, like, he's going to have to move quick and, move fast, break things. But yes, you should be able to fix a lot too. Bring in Vivek, bring in Elon Musk, bring in RFK Jr. Use this tag team of kind of like really independent thinking, entrepreneurial spirited, like, geniuses, and like let them run wild. I don't see, like, given how terrible the current paradigm is, I would gleefully accept that new paradigm.
That's true, because technocracy is super dangerous. Getting people plugged into a machine where they can't get out, that's so dangerous. We have to do radical change to subvert it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we're really dangerously close to a wider war, either with Iran or with Russia or with China or North Korea. The list goes on and on.
I want to pull up this tweet because I was kind of talking about this. This is from Colin Rugg. He says, Justin, NFL quarterback Patrick Mahomes' wife releases a statement after liking one of Trump's Instagram posts. Brittany Mahomes is under fire by leftists for liking Trump's platform on Instagram. Brittany appears to now be defending her support for Trump, blasting the haters for not healing from issues they had from childhood. Quote, to be a hater as an adult, you have to have some deep-rooted issues you refuse to heal from childhood. There's no reason your brain is fully developed and you hate to see others doing so well. Epic. So this is Brittany's response. She had liked Trump's 2024 GOP platform. They're losing their minds. Look at that. Liked by Brittany Lynn. Bravo. Now, this is, of course, before the RFK Jr. endorsement, but this is what I'm talking about. More people publicly endorsing Trump's positions. And you know what? I'm surprised. A lot of people get attacked like this, and they apologize immediately, like, oh, no, my finger slipped on the button. Mm-hmm. And she's like, shut up. It's great.
I really like that she hasn't apologized for it, but the media hates this girl. She hangs out with Taylor Swift now because her husband and Travis Kelce are on the same football team, and everything she does, they hate. Everything she wears, they hate. And it makes me think, it kind of makes you tough enough to be like, well, I'm not going to hide my politics then. If you don't like me already, I'm going to be honest with who I am.
So wait, she hangs out with Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
What if Taylor Swift is secretly based?
Wouldn't shock me.
I'm just saying, Swifties for Trump, and et cetera.
Well,
what if Travis converted her? She's a hardcore MAGA.
I don't know. I think this is why I always tell people, stop attacking people who haven't. Even if Taylor Swift came out and she had those cookies or whatever for the Democrats or whatever, even if she made the endorsement, you don't insult, attack, you persuade. You say, aw, I'm a big fan. I wish you would, sit down with us, and you try to win them over. You don't do what the left does and insult and attack people.
I think going back to your point about why RFK Jr. Is such an interesting attack vector with this endorsement is exactly that these people that have not been woken up yet, they have been propagandized so aggressively that the Democrats are the defenders of democracy. And that if you don't support them, then you're basically supporting fascism. RFK Jr. comes out and very eloquently states that, in fact, it's the complete inversion of the truth, that the DNC closed off the primaries and they ultimately palace couped Trump out of power. Or not Trump, but they did that to Trump too, but they palace couped Biden out of power and then foisted Kamala Harris onto the Democrat voters. It's a powerful, compelling argument that really dismantles the top narrative they've been running on, defending democracy. You guys don't believe in it.
I think people need to realize, too, that there are still middle-of-the-road people who are not deeply indoctrinated.
Of course.
That can be exposed to the truth. If they're surrounded by the right people, we can spread this message. RFK makes a big move in that direction. So we have to try and be as persuasive as we can to as many people as possible. That being said, we also need to be wary that there are evil people who will seek to exploit you and lie to you. These political pundits online who they know the truth already, but say the opposite.
And regarding political moderates, that's young people in general. All the people that are young have not yet been indoctrinated. They have not chosen their path. And that's constant. Forever, there will always be new people that are ready to learn. So that's people like Bobby teaching them.
I gotta read this super chat from Space is Cool Man. It's too perfect. It says, Brat Summer, Nuclear Winter. That is a good anti-Kamala slogan right there.
No, it is. I mean, Kamala Harris is not the person we want negotiating anything, right? I get it. Biden administration brought her out to represent some sort of diversity role and to, wave and dance when need be, but they didn't even trust her with anything. They made her the border czar and then sort of shunted her to the side. No one wants Kamala Harris representing them, including Democrats. That's why they didn't pick her the first chance they had.
For all the gamers out there, I would give Kamala a 14 charisma if you play D&D with 0 persuasion and maybe 2 points in intimidation.
14 charisma?
She has charisma enough to be a politician, yeah.
No, bro.
You see all those people screaming and dancing.
That's why she's done so many interviews.
That's not her. That's everyone else at the event.
She's kind of cute.
And it's commercial.
She's pretty enough to have charisma. It helps her charisma. So 14.
If she had charisma, why is she not doing interviews?
Because she has no persuasion skill. She has very low intimidation skill. She's not a good speaker.
Michael Malice exemplified this. Malice exemplified this so well at the end of yesterday's episode as to why he doesn't want to listen to Kamala Harris. And he was like, because I can say something sincere like me saying, oh, I'm really excited to listen to you guys on the Members Only show. I think it's going to be good fun. And if Kamala Harris has it, it's, I'm so excited to hear you on the Members Only show. That's not, she lacks charisma. Now, I wouldn't give her 0.
No, yeah, she gets a bonus to her charisma.
7 or 8.
I don't think so. Willie Brown thought she was hot.
Yeah, oh, come on.
I think she gets a bonus +2 to her charisma, but the thing is, I think Michael doesn't want to listen to her because if you listen to an evil person with charisma, you can get indoctrinated into their evil ways.
No,
so he's like, he doesn't even
not
want
good
anything.
at it.
She has no persuasion. She has 0 in persuasion. She has no persuasion skill, which gives you bonus on top of, and she has some intimidation skill. Like she'll be like, "You want Trump to win?" And you're like, "Oh, well, no, my lady, no." Like, but she just has low, like 12 intelligence, 11 intelligence, maybe.
I disagree, Ian. If this was true, they'd put her on TV more.
Well, if Trump's got like 18 charisma with like a 16 points in persuasion. He's super charismatic and persuasive, but she has like no persuasion ability.
They won't.
And a moderately okay.
She inspires no one.
I know.
Charisma. Someone who
14's
inspires
not that
people.
good.
But she inspires no one. That's why they won't put her on TV and she won't do interviews.
I feel like she only inspires people.
That's commercials promoting the DNC, and those are delegates who are brought in. That's like saying, does the cult leader have to be charismatic to his zealots? Not if the leader's installed by commercials and television. The reason they won't have her do interviews is because she does not have charisma.
Low intelligence. That's
She can't
the reason
speak.
she doesn't do the interview.
She can't speak
that's racist.
extemporaneously. She's incapable of doing it. And honestly, I think her blood alcohol content has been higher consistently over the past 3 years than she polled in 2020. I'm being totally honest too. I genuinely believe that.
She was
she would be dead.
No, well, sorry, you have to do the point. Yeah, but I think like she polled at 2%.
Okay,
I think
so
she's rocking 0.2.
Decimal.
Yes, if you swing the decimal one,
It's like, dude,
Yeah.
29% blood alcohol content is not something you survive.
You're right about that. Yeah.
Is that true that she has a drinking problem? Is
Well,
this
how could I know? I don't
okay?
know.
But people have been suggesting it online. I've been seeing. Is it just
because
bloodshot eyes or
look,
something?
I've partied enough in my day to recognize when someone's a couple of glasses of wine deep. She seems like she's consistently that, or it's pills, or worst case scenario, she's an imbecile. I don't know which. You combine all three, she still shouldn't be elected.
Yeah, I don't. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to go back first. Kamala Harris is only persuasive to people who have not paid attention in the last 3.5 years and to people who don't know anything about politics. Because when I was watching her speech last night, if I was just stepping back objectively and I didn't know anything about her, I'd be like, okay, like she's got some charisma because she's decent when she's in front of a teleprompter. She's not good at speaking off the cuff. She's not good at answering questions. So that's why she's not going to do interviews. Instead, it was easier for her to do the meme approach, like the whole Brat Summer thing. Like that was a desperate way of trying to win over Gen Z, because the thing is Gen Z is like the first generation that has grown up knowing to not trust the media, because other generations, it took them quite a few years of being lied to finally recognize that if it's on legacy media, there's a good chance that it's a blatant lie.
Her speech, her acceptance speech was probably at most probably a quarter of RFK's speech today. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to me that he was ad-libbing much of that.
In length, do you mean?
Yeah.
A quarter?
Yeah.
Half of it was her saying thank you.
Well, it was 3 to 4 minutes of it. It felt like it was applause lines in the beginning, and then she spends 10 minutes talking about her heritage and just trying desperately to convince the American people that she is in fact African American. I don't know why that's such an important point to make. And then relatable. And then she's a prosecutor, and it's like. There was so little vision for what she actually wants to deliver to the country, and when she finally got to it, it was just purely a funhouse, mirror image of the inverse of Donald Trump. It's like everything that you have to say is just counter him, and your vision of him is contrived. It's not actually grounded in reality. It's a straw man. So if it works on anybody, I don't understand how.
It's this smiling and laughing. That they do a lot of smiling and laughing at that DNC, which is really disturbing. Like the economy's not in a good place. Not time to laugh and smile, guys. Like get serious.
Just
also
severe
a lot of that
inflation, $35 trillion in debt, $1 trillion in annual interest payments alone, multiple proxy wars.
They do that.
Let's all laugh and drink.
They keep doing this. Michelle Obama's doing. They talking like this when they're talking. It's like, who the hell? Just talk normal.
Oh,
talk to the
AOC
people.
does it. I
agree.
Myself. It's the worst when AOC does it, because she really gets into it like this.
She's got some good hand gesture. She's really becoming a female top politician. Trump spoke for almost 2 hours at the RNC, right?
Yep.
Kamala Harris barely ordered Taco Bell with the length of her speech. I mean, it is crazy to me that this is their candidate. She has this big moment. She's primed for it. And I honestly think Joe Biden would have spoken for longer. And that's amazing, because every speech he gave got shorter and shorter.
When I'm sure all of us at this table have said this at some point, the more she talks, the more she loses. And they know this, and it couldn't be more obvious. I would not be surprised if they told who I don't know if they have applause signs in the amphitheater or if they just told people like higher ups or people in control of each section, look, we are going to give her the longest applause break in human history, just as she takes the stage, because we only have her planned to talk for 15 minutes. We want 3 minutes of that to be applause. And then every time she says anything remotely good, we want another standing ovation, buy us 20 more seconds. I mean, I bet if you counted it, she said like maybe 1,000 words. It was embarrassing.
They bounce those signs up and down.
Right.
Like the people hyped or something.
Yeah.
It was like a hype
to make it look
fest.
really busy and full.
200 of those words were thank you much. Like, I just really want to hone in on that.
Yes.
If you watch the beginning of her speech, it was thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, she went on with that for a solid 2 minutes. And part of the breaks, too, I keep saying this, Kamala Harris has social anxiety. I know a nervous laugh when I hear one. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys heard about like the rapid turnover she was happening with her staff. Well, if you listen to what a lot of her staff members said, is that every time that there was a big event or somewhere that she had to show up for, she would make her staff pretty much do like a rehearsal of like, let's say I was walking into this room, and she would have her staff sit in all the seats that you guys would, so that she could just pretend on how she would have conversations with these different people. She has no confidence in herself. She's an extremely insecure yet dangerously ambitious politician who keeps getting put into these positions to let other people do the work. She's just the face. Yep. She doesn't want to be anything beyond that.
We were watching her speech. We were doing a simulcast on InfoWars with Roger Stone, myself, Luke, and Alex Jones. And Alex is just like, during that applause break, he just goes, "You ever going to talk? Bunch of communists." And he's just like, I thought he was going to have a total mental breakdown. It was hysterical.
Let's jump to this debate. We got this tweet. It's going viral. It's a clip from the DNC of Tim Walz pulling on his son's arm. And a lot of people are suggesting it shows that he's an abusive parent. But others suggest he's just trying to pull his son away from a teleprompter from bumping into it. Here's the clip. You can see right there he yanks him. That's it. And it rewinds. I don't know who made this, but everyone's sharing it. He pulls him pretty hard, and then you look at his face, and a lot of people have said he's got a grimace on his face. He looks frustrated. He's pulling his son. His son's got a mental, that face he makes. His son's got a learning disability of some sort. And so this is following on this story where Gus Waltz cried when his dad said that he loved him, and we'll play the clip for you. Okay, so they're just doing stupid music. Is that it?
I thought this was a sweet moment, honestly.
Yeah, when I saw this clip going around, you have Gus Waltz crying when his dad calls him out and says, "I love you." And so I talked about it on my morning show, and I said, it's actually one of the most heartwarming things. You know, this kid sees his dad's up on stage, and he says, "That's my son, I love him," and he's crying. My only thing was I started laughing like, your dad's lying about everything up there,
right.
Lying about IVF and all this stuff, trying to make people think that his family got IVF when they did not,
right.
Because it's political. And so, but I'm not going to rag on the kid for this.
That's not
However, in this debate, when people show Tim Waltz yanking his son and having that look on his face that some have suggested is a look of frustration, others have said he's just pulling him away from the teleprompter. I don't buy that. He's not going to trip into the teleprompter. He's walking right past it. The pull of his arm doesn't do anything to pull him away from the teleprompter.
He might be 8 feet away from that thing, too.
Well,
no, they're walking through it.
She walks in front of it. But either way, look at the direction Gus is walking.
Ducking under it, maybe, right there. He pulls him hard,
he doesn't need to be pulled. So regardless of what you think, the narrative is now, the argument, the debate is this. The reason why Gus Waltz started crying when his dad said he loved him is because they believe, people are arguing, this is a sign of abuse. A kid who grew up with a learning disability from parents who are frustrated having to deal with him. I got to imagine, or I said I could imagine, because I'm not trying to take sides on this debate, but you got a kid with a learning disability and the parents are like, "Stop, it's like this, stop doing this, stop, why won't you listen, why can't you learn?" And so people are suggesting the reason he cried. Now, let me say this first. There were several conservatives who mocked Gus for crying this way. A little over the top there, son, a little weird. Some people are like, why is he crying so heavily? And then other people pointed out, when you see this clip, maybe it's because his dad never said he loved him. And here he is at this political rally saying, "That's my son and I love him." And the kid, it's the first time he's heard that from his dad. Or he rarely hears it from his dad. And his dad's kind of mean to him. And so he takes it. He stands up and he claps and cries.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the guy, and I'm talking about Tim Waltz, who puts on these over-the-top smiles, is actually a jerk behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised to find that out. I can't make any claims, and I won't.
I can understand this argument because when I saw him crying and clapping and saying, "That's my dad," I laughed and I'm like, all right, but I'm not going to get mad at a kid for cheering for his dad. That being said, wouldn't we assume 99% of people would stand up and wave when his dad was like, "That's my son, I love him"? They go, "Yes, thank you, thank you."
I would have cried too.
If your dad cheered for you from the
that's like a very touching moment, I feel like. And I want to know, how severe is his learning disability? Isn't he like nonverbal? Like, isn't it
He
to
has
that
a
level?
nonverbal learning disability, which impacts his ability to learn and communicate. But it doesn't, like, he can talk. It's not like he's.
Okay.
From what I read about it, and obviously, like, they haven't given us a very specific diagnosis other than like very intense ADHD and a nonverbal learning disability.
I mean, if I was 17 and my dad was, giving his acceptance speech to be the vice president of the United States, and he talked very glowingly about how much he loved his family and me, I would probably react. I wouldn't react like that.
I wouldn't ugly cry.
I wouldn't have ugly cried, but there's no doubt I would tear.
Nice masculine tear down the cheek.
It's just me. I wouldn't. I'd stand up and I'd smile and I'd wave and I'd be like, "Thanks,
Chicago,
Dad."
you're built different.
Maybe.
Yeah, you are.
From Chicago.
But you were there longer than me.
Sure.
I'm from SoCal. I'm
not
fragile.
saying. I'm not suggesting that nobody would have an emotional reaction. The argument other people are making, and maybe it's just a kid who loves his dad. I don't know. I thought it was actually heartwarming to see this kid clap for his dad. He's proud of his dad. His dad's saying he loves him.
Well, especially if he has special needs, it makes sense that he would
if
kind
he's,
of
like,
have
overstimulated,
over the top
right?
reaction. Sure.
That poll doesn't even seem that aggressive for people to be coming up with these like massive conspiracies about what's happening. Like, to me, that just looks like, come on, hurry up. Like, we have limited time. They're going to go to commercial. That's what it's giving to me.
Yeah.
But also, I really don't want to talk about what politicians are doing or like their relationship with their kids unless we're talking about Ashley Biden's diary, because we still don't have the clarity on that we deserve.
And she introduced Biden on the first day. They had.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, before, so in 2020, they just brought out every single granddaughter they could. No grandsons, just granddaughters. And this time they're bringing out Ashley because they can't bring out Hunter, right? I mean, I really wonder what would have happened if, Bo Biden hadn't gotten his, terminal cancer diagnosis. I think they wouldn't lean so heavily on these ne'er-do-well children.
And what's with Ashley Biden's accent? Did you guys catch that?
I didn't see it.
She had a weird accent.
Did she?
Yes. Did you guys watch?
I gotta watch a clip right now.
You didn't watch it?
I didn't even know she was there.
Yeah, she has.
She introed Biden.
Wow.
And he was like, "That's my daughter."
I know
think
it
we
is.
all thought about the daughter.
Let's see if I can find a video. I don't know if no, they're all interviews. Let's see. Yeah, she had like a weird accent, and I tweeted. I was like, "This is weird. Why is she talking like that?"
I'll say that my initial.
So I think this might be it.
That's it.
The Violence Against Women Act.
I don't hear an accent there, do you?
You gotta
A little bit more.
Dad was always there, doing everything he could to be a true partner to her. Dad, you always tell us, but we don't tell you enough, that you are the love of our lives and the life of our love. I thought that I would be a mess, but he was the one crying, and I was the one who had to comfort him.
You don't hear it?
I hear it. It sounds like English is her second language.
It sounds so to me, it sounds like English is her second language, but she learned English when she was 11 or 12.
Maybe she's doing that.
Really, I don't
stilted
hear anything
speech
that
talk
intense.
where she's reading.
She sounds like a
off
little
of the
slurry to me,
teleprompter.
but that's it.
She sounds a little like XY chromosome.
It
like
sounds
a little
like
bassy.
She's got like an Eastern European like pull, slightly.
Yeah.
In the way that she talks, there's a weird kind of thing there.
You're more of you have a more finely tuned ear for these things. To me, it sounded like kind of the American aristocracy or aristocrats. Like they have a little bit more of a bougie tone to them. So that's all I caught.
Isn't it called like a transatlantic?
Yeah.
Accent,
like the JFKs. They were famous for that.
And there are coastal cities on the East Coast that actually do have very unique accents, especially because they've done a lot of mobility. And
he's what, Delaware?
He's Delaware.
Yeah. So maybe they have a little accent. I don't know.
Dad knows that family is everything.
Knows. Dad
He taught me about it
I
in the
lost
shower.
Our brother Bo to cancer in 2015.
Like
she's reading
to me,
too, I think.
It sounds like someone who learned English as a young child. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people who English is their second language, and they have some kind of, sometimes will make weird inflections, It sounds like she's trying. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she just had a speech impediment that she overcame, so it lingers.
She inherited the Biden family stutter.
That's true.
Exactly.
It's possible.
You know, I mean, there's I got this one friend who is from Poland, and then he learned English, a second language, when he was like a young kid, and so he's constantly making up words.
I bet he sounds like a total idiot.
Yeah,
I bet he's a real scumbag, and every time he guest hosts on this show, he never brings up the fact that he co-hosts it with Clint.
Luke,
Probably a pretty low IQ guy.
scumbag, you.
Probably just pimps himself out and gives no love to
Here's
his
the thing, though.
co-hosts.
He's gonna love that.
This is the point that I'm making. I'm not saying that she's got a thick European accent.
No, I know.
I'm saying that I listened to her speak, and I was like, huh?
My bets are on that she's
That's not
reading
North
off a
American dialect.
teleprompter.
Yeah.
But why is
she
she
definitely
doing
is.
this
She
thing
doesn't wanna
where
make
her talk
the
is like
wrong
this?
word.
It might be
Maybe.
that she's not comfortable. Like Ian's right. If she's reading off a teleprompter and she's not, I mean, she doesn't really give that many public addresses. She might just not be.
I think she
prepared
was
to
just
speak
trying to put
publicly.
the diary rumors to bed. That's my
it
guess.
work?
That's my guess.
Instead of the
Probably
shower,
not.
Take it to bed instead of the shower.
To the bed.
I'm sure. Oh God, I can't. I don't even want to make those jokes. It's
let me
really bad. I mean, she's an adult woman now, but like making those jokes about
Well, it's sad. Similarly, the Tim Walz thing, like abuse allegations are serious, right? Like they're not something we should take lightly because so many children suffer at the hands of people who are in charge of their lives, their caregivers. But it is becoming more common to look at these families and be like, there's something weird going on here. And unfortunately, the diary is one of those things that people felt like Biden was a weird guy. And then when you get this diary that she has now confirmed was hers, like it just makes people think like, what are you actually selling to the American public?
I have not read
And
it.
what was Joe doing with that dog in the shower?
there was a dog in there.
When he tripped
When he broke his leg, he said that what was it like? He was getting out of the shower and the dog did something.
I
What-
forgot about that.
he
Yeah,
reached down and
you're
pulled
right.
its tail or something.
Yeah, he reached out and pulled the dog's tail while he was in the shower and slipped.
Dude, he's a weird.
My
dude.
guess is he blamed the dog, but the dude
What?
just slipped. I don't know.
That's what it was. He was in the shower.
Yeah,
or
I think
something,
he went
right?
to
you're
pull
right.
its tail. As the story is, he pulled the dog's tail. I could be wrong about that.
And he was in the shower and pulled the dog's
getting
tail.
out, and he pulled the dog's tail, and he slipped.
Why?
and
Why
fell.
is the dog in the bathroom?
I don't know.
I feel like that's pretty common.
Was it
Yeah, I don't think
Commander?
it's that
It's
weird.
common to put your dog in the bathroom when you're taking a shower.
No, the dogs will enter the bathroom.
Yeah, they want-
like
You leave the door
open
open.
the door.
Nervous energy.
So
Or they
Joe's-
sit outside and cry.
What do
Yeah.
they call that? Abandonment issues or whatever. When they think you're gone, they want to like be near you.
Right.
Okay, so the dog comes into Joe. Like, so Joe's taking a shower and it's probably in his.
Left the door
master-
cracked open. Yeah.
The dog walks in and then he reaches for the towel. The dog turns around and he grabs its tail.
I thought he grabbed it on purpose just to play with the dog. And it
I have no
slipped and
idea,
fell.
man. Look.
So, my question: do you think that Tim Walz was that a sign of abuse? Did you get that vibe?
It's so hard to tell off of that. And again, like I just think making abuse allegations is so serious that you have to be really
Yeah.
careful about it. It's obviously it doesn't seem like he trusts his son to navigate the stage, and
But there may be reason.
maybe
for
there's
that.
a reason for that. We don't know.
Look, also, let me just say real quick. I first saw this and I immediately quote tweeted it and I was like, I just obliterated the dude. And then someone in my replies goes, well, look at where the teleprompter is. And I hadn't even seen the teleprompter before. So then I went back and I watched it very closely, like Zapruder film. I was like rewinding it back and forth to try and figure out what I had actually witnessed. And I concluded that I'm not sure, but I'm going to try and give the benefit of the doubt because I feel like the Democrats would, paint Trump as the worst things imaginable if something like that were to happen. And well, I think that his policies are atrocious and that we ought to be condemning him for that. Unless we actually have definitive evidence that he's abusing his kid, let's not go there.
Well, and I thought Seamus of Freedom Tunes had a really good tweet about this where he was like, I should pull it up and quote it better. I'm not going to do justice to his.
Just
he's so
abuse
funny.
it. He deserves
But he
it.
said something to the effect of
you,
like,
Seamus.
oh, yes, making fun of a vice president's child is a new low for Republicans, but it's an old low for Democrats. And then he had this screenshot of, I think, a HuffPost article where they point out that when Sarah Palin was nominated to be the VP, there was a Family Guy episode making fun of the fact that she had a kid with Down syndrome. And so it's actually like this moral high ground that someone is pulling out right now. I think, we could all be better to the children of politicians who don't opt to be in the spotlight, right?
Well,
Mine are children of politicians. I remember this with Barron,
Exactly.
who was 12 at the time. And I remember being in a corporate office that I worked for. And they were like, can we make fun of him? He's like 17, right? And it turned out he's just already at that age. He looked tall for his age.
6'1".
Right. He was already storming over the White House. But I think that we just if we want to be a decent society, we have to think critically about the things that we're saying, especially about minors.
Exactly. And I wonder if Barron has some capacity to convert the hate he's received into like HGH.
That's why he's so tall.
Yeah, I think he's like 8'4" just based off of the hate. Ian, you're a scientist. Tell
Jordan
me,
Peterson was just talking about anger with Theo Vaughn. It was like 8 months ago when I was watching the interview last night, and about how powerful and useful anger can be if you get it behind you. Like, get thee behind me, Satan. And how you can use that to propel you up.
Drive you, yeah.
So maybe he's done that.
I always thought he was tall because Melania put, I think it was either caviar or like gold bar cream on him as a baby, some like crazy expensive moisturizer. And she was like, for my precious baby, which I think is like the most Melania Trump thing ever of all time.
That's the most
Huge
Trump
fan.
thing ever, to bathe your infant in caviar. Get out of here.
And that's why he is as beautiful and tall as Trump always says he is.
Does anybody know how tall he actually is? Because he looks as if he's 7 feet
I
tall.
think Trump said he was 6'7".
6'7". Okay,
Which-
he looks taller than that because Trump's like 6'3", and he towers over Trump.
He grows like 3 inches every month.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, he's like 12 feet by now.
And guys can grow until they're like 21, I think. I mean, they a lot of men hit puberty ends or the growth spurt ends when they're in early college. So he could be,
It would be-
7'1" by the end of next year.
It'd be funny if Barron Trump, just to everyone's surprise, has nothing to do with politics at all, totally bows out and goes pro in the NBA.
That'd be so hard.
That'd be so
So
fun.
he's got
Gangster.
There's a funny chart showing like, or there's like a
So
meme,
badass.
the percentage likelihood of being in the NBA as your height goes up, and so people who are like 7 feet tall have like a 17% chance of being in the NBA.
I think I think he doesn't play ball. He doesn't play basketball. Trump wanted him to, but he plays golf and
Soccer. Yeah.
Oh.
I would be amazing. They haven't said officially where Barron's going to college. What if he is about to be on like some crazy like University of Kentucky basketball team?
Nephilim don't have good ball handling skills, so I don't think he's.
Doesn't matter because they're just closer to the net. That's
true.
why.
That's true. You don't really have to dribble when you're a center. So
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to get his official height.
I was to say, I think going back where you were saying earlier about like the moral high ground of like saying like it's both sides are making fun of the other sides, like kids and the kids of VPs. It reminds me of there was the debate after Trump got shot because so many people were online like making fun of the fact that he got shot. Like I even saw people in my own family, because a large portion of my family is radical left, saying how they wish the shooter was black because then they wouldn't have missed. And I was repulsed by that, obviously. But then I start seeing people pull up screenshots of talking about when everything happened with Nancy Pelosi's husband, or talking about when Democrats were dying after getting the vaccine and people were celebrating on the right. So that is one of those things when it comes to just being a moral, decent person. I think we all kind of need to do a better job on that, and rather than pointing the finger like, oh well, why are you making fun of us now, and then it just this back and forth,
Right.
it just won't end.
Well, just to be clear, when I was concerned about Mr. Wall's son there, I was not in any way demonizing his kid. I was concerned about him and his treatment of his son. I think that's a total, that's more fair game.
Yeah.
Like if I thought there was actually valid concerns that Donald Trump was abusing his kid, I'd be like, all right, yeah, that's probably a fair conversation to be had.
Which is why I think the
that's true, though.
conversation about adult Ashley Biden's diary is so different than,
Yes.
than
Well,
a lot
exactly.
of these things. And
Exactly.
I mean, I think one of the challenges with, sudden new public figures is, Walls deserves probably a lot of criticism. I think that he is obviously a liar. I think he's proven that very quickly.
Oh my God.
I think he was not a good governor. I think that there are all kinds of issues with his policy. I think that he, pretended to be center and has obviously moved very progressively. That's a danger to the country. But it's hard to say what that looks like in the home life. And I think especially in this case, they're all going to be under, very intense scrutiny, and we just can't make a definitive statement based off one
What
moment.
about J.D. Vance? Is he a liar?
Is-
You have a
is there an
specific
example?
criticism?
I just wonder. He's new in the spotlight. I just want to criticize both sides equally if there's a reason to. I don't know anything about
If you could present me an example of him lying, I haven't seen it.
That's the
He's
thing.
definitely
Like
changed
the
his
wall
mind.
stuff surfaced so quickly. I think people criticize J.D. Vance for being a former never Trumper, but I said this however many weeks ago when they announced that he was the VP candidate, that I actually like the redemption arc. The idea that you would have someone who was like, yeah, I really didn't like Trump, and I watched things go well, and so I changed my mind, and I'm in this position now. I think it's better to have someone who is open and honest about converting.
At least he acknowledges the evolution, as opposed to the corporate media who lies to you for a year plus, maybe 3 years straight, that Joe Biden is right as rain, and then overnight they all just flip the script and they tell the truth, and they don't make any concessions. But JD Vance can't have a change of heart, but they can all lie for us.
They act surprised. I can't believe it. Can you believe what we're seeing here in this debate? Oh, heavens, they tricked us.
what happened.
Well, Tim Murtaugh, who's
overnight.
back on the Trump campaign, he was a 2020 communications director. He had this column up that was like, any journalist that acts surprised lied to you, and they should immediately leave the profession.
I agree.
They did something wrong. They lied, and if they didn't realize that they're bad at their job, and if they knew the whole time, which we know they all did, because everyone on the right knew about it. I don't understand how it could be so obvious to one side and not the other. Clearly, everyone.
These people function strictly off of a narrative frame set by their corporate media masters. But what's weird is that the corporate media themselves, some of them I do think actually buy into it. Like they're so deep in the Kool-Aid that they forget that they're actually just propagandists, and they start to actually think they're telling the truth. It's weird to watch.
And I think they think they're doing a service. Like, I don't know if you feel this way because, you've come from a different background, but I think a lot of young journalists will say, like, but saying these things is good. I'm helping the greater good when I say these things, even though the things that they're presenting are inherently false, or they're not doing enough to fact check them.
Well, when you portray your opposition as the epitome of evil, which is what they've done with Donald Trump, well, then certainly the limit of response that you can set for yourself obviously increases, because you are up against abject evil. It's like if I was in facing a communist takeover, like, yeah, I'm going to probably turn down my morality meter because I have to survive.
Yep.
We're in war now. I have to survive. So I think it's what they've done it to themselves. But the weird thing is that it's contrived, that he's not actually that threat that they believe him to be.
Yeah, man, it's the danger of, like, if there's a fire out of control, a wildfire, they'll do a controlled burn to prevent the wildfire from continuing. If they think Trump is a wildfire, they think that controlling a burn is legit, is like ethical. When in reality, like, what do you? If there's no actual
unfortunately, they stopped doing the underburns in California, and now the entire state's burning down because of these controlled burns.
I thought you guys are right about, like, not going hard on the family of politicians, and just maybe not going hard on people, because what's happening is a lot of people that are outside the system are wondering, like, who am I going to support in 2028 when I can finally vote? They're looking at, like, who are the good guys right now, not who are right. They're looking at who are the good people morally.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's been my litmus test for a very long time. This is why, despite my differences of opinion with RFK Jr., I was seriously considering voting for the guy, because he strikes me as sincere and honorable, and that's just something you don't see in American politics hardly ever.
I want to bring up this debate again. We had this debate on the Culture War podcast, so we'll just do this before we go to Super Chats. I tweeted this. If Trump promised to cut all funding to Ukraine and Israel and foreign interventions, but he would use the money to pay reparations to descendants of slaves, would you support this? As of right now, with 105,000 votes, 57.2% said fund war, no reparations. 42.8% said pay reparations, end war. My position is, if this was the only choice, I go for pay reparations, end the war. What do you guys think?
End the war and. Yeah, whatever. End the war and burn the money. I don't care. End the war.
Yeah.
Burn the money.
Not surprising.
That's a good point.
Ian and I are in. Yeah, I mean, I would rather it go to minorities, or really what I would like to see, as I said before the show, I would love for it to go to victims of the lockdown era.
Yeah.
Like those are the people that you don't have to worry about generational gap and proving lineage to see if you're, descendant of slavery. Like, no, we were actually abused and our civil liberties were violated and we lost trillions of dollars. Yeah, that would be more fair. But the problem is that it would come from us. So
to answer your question, honestly, I would choose pay reparations, end war. That is what I would choose. I'm shocked that many people didn't choose that. Actually.
There are, of course, a lot of people saying neither. Right. The purpose of the hypothetical is to gauge what you think is a greater priority. Obviously, everyone's response is we shouldn't do either.
Yeah, this is the Michael Malice test. These people.
Yeah. It's a question of what you think is a greater priority. And so the reason why this question comes up is because you have this debate over reparations, but then how can we even be having that debate when $200 billion goes to Ukraine? For what? So they can invade Russia and push us to the brink of World War III?
They just authorize another $100 million or something.
It's ridiculous. It's insane.
They just keep finding more money without congressional authorization, too, which is also bizarre. But yeah, I mean, look, I think even Dave Smith would agree with this. Like, if you're going to be burning money and printing and borrowing and taxing us into oblivion, yeah, I would rather you be spending it on anything other than killing people. I think that's totally fair. So, even libertarians who absolutely hate everything the government does, we still all would, for the most part, agree. End the war, pay the reparations, whatever.
The extremely simple take on this is if Donald Trump were to come out and say, hey, everybody, populists who want to see an end of the war, you'll win. And there's a way he's like, if I win the presidency, I end these wars, I bring our troops home, I get peace deals. How do we guarantee that I win? Whatever that money was, it's going to go for reparations. Now everyone who wants reparations, you can vote for me too.
Interesting.
I mean, I hate both options, obviously. But if I had to choose between the two, unfortunately, I would probably choose to fund the war, only because Israel's in there too. Ukraine, I don't feel like we should be sending any money to Ukraine. Israel, I feel like we have sent an excessive amount, but even if we stopped funding them, that's not going to end the war in Israel. With Ukraine, if we stopped funding it, I do think that would simmer out. But with Israel, it's going to keep going. And then if Israel loses, then I really feel like we are doomed here in Western society. So then we'll have much bigger problems than paying reparations.
Extrapolate. Why would we be doomed in Western society if Israel were to lose?
Because Israel is like our only ally in the Middle East. And if they get taken down, then you have the collective Middle East led by Iran wanting to get their lick back against the United States. Then we already pissed off Russia. We pissed off China. You got three major people who want to come after us. And Hamas, if they're a key leader in leading the Middle East against us, they have been saying since 1988 they want to take out Jews and Christians worldwide and really eliminate all of Western society. So if Israel loses the war, we are doomed over here.
Well, it's an interesting argument. I don't agree. I don't think that we are in danger of a land invasion from anyone ever. And as long as we have a nuclear arsenal that can wipe out the world multiple times over, I don't think that they're going to engage with us in a bombing campaign either. While I do agree, I do agree that probably if we were to stop funding Israel, there's a distinct possibility they could lose that war. I think it's actually more likely that if we were to defund that war, that they would actually then go to the negotiating table and work towards peace. And I think that would be to the benefit of not just the Palestinians, but also to the Israelis, who I think have ultimately created such a toxic environment amongst their neighbors. Turkey is getting very close to actually entering this war, and Turkey's a NATO ally. That is such a paradigm-shifting maneuver. I don't think people are paying or giving it enough thought as to where this thing might be headed.
Well, so here's round two. Would you like to read the new question I've proposed?
Round two. Trump promises to end the war in Ukraine and Israel, but he will use the money instead to deliver delicious chocolate chip cookies to all Americans instead. Would you support this? End war, give me cookies. No cookies, more war.
Seed oils or no seed oils?
No cookies, because America's
end war, give me cookies.
There we go, 95.6.
We have too many big-backed Americans. We need to unnormalize being obese, so I am anti-cookies.
You're going more war again? This man loves war.
If it's coconut oil, I'll go with the cookies. Maybe with a nice coconut sugar or honey. But if it's like safflower oil, nah.
You would rather go to war
World
than have
War.
seed oils?
World War IV, Hannah Claire. I will go to war over seed oils. No,
It's
no.
not
End the
over
wars.
seed
Come on,
oils.
end the freaking wars.
We're
ending war. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, about imperialism and the danger of letting our guard down militarily. Like, if we stop the offense, someone else will begin the offense. That's the idea of global
Well, we're
war.
the offense and the defense, right? Because we found every side of everything right now.
But even if we win the war, it's like at what cost? It's like we're wiping out so many people. It's like, ugh. It's just lose-lose
Thank you.
situation.
Yes.
I agree with you on that. I'm not a pro-war person. It's just I would rather
Why
not lose.
Why pre-COVID under Trump? Why was the economy doing so well and there were no new wars? It's almost like when we don't waste money on these wars for conquest to create some liberal economic order, we actually see Americans prosper because the economic resources are going towards the people of the country.
Well, that's the whole America First mantra, right?
What some people have pointed out in response to the actual question about ending the war is that the money spent on war in many ways does go to American companies and is spent in this country. So when they're building rockets, it's American jobs that are getting paid the salaries that they buy cookies with and then they go home. But the truth is, while that is true, that is true to a certain extent, if all of the money was in the American economy, you're looking at, instead of building a $50 million drone missile or whatever, you're looking at contractors hiring electricians, who are hiring chefs, who are ordering cakes, who are buying playing cards. This is why everyone's life in this country gets better, because the economic resources, the resources themselves, are traded amongst only the Americans for the purpose of generating resources for Americans. Forget money. Let's just talk about general trade. We are all trading, and the end result is a rocket that none of us will ever get to use, and it's fired off in a foreign country. Or we're all trading, and the end result is a giant water slide for which will remain in our community and we can use whenever we want.
We got to somehow.
One gives us something that gives us more luxuries, one doesn't.
Just like you can retrofit an economy to go from like an industrial manufacturing base that makes roads and cars into an economy that makes missiles and tanks. You go from like a car company into a tank company. You could go from a tank company into a car company. So you could kind of reverse engineer the military industrial complex into an industrial complex of another nature. Of course, then the idea is, do you want to let your guard down militarily? That's another.
The argument is deeply flawed because they're both mass welfare programs. You are stealing money from the taxpayer or through inflation via printing and borrowing, and then you're handing it out to your cronies. Well, your cronies, instead of being Halliburton or Lockheed Martin, just becomes the minority population that you've opted to give them the money for reparations. There's still a multiplier effect when you hand out money to people. They go and they spend it. That goes to the corporations. They then hire more people. It's the same. There's still a multiplier effect whether you're giving it out through reparations or through a corporation. I just think that they're both obviously terrible. And on one side, there's actually war and death and destruction. On the other side, there's, I won't say anything else.
What we've got now is conquest, because in order to combat inflation, it looks like they're trying to seize resources from other countries. If we stop the conquest, then there will be an attempt at resource seizure within our country, is seemingly the fear.
I know. Well,
no, you're right. We should invade Alaska. We should take all of the troops.
Possess it?
I was going to say invade one of our
Well,
own
for
states.
whatever reason, we're not doing any energy exploration or development in our own territory, which is a massive, massive allotment of land that we control, that no one disputes. But for some reason, we're like, but why don't we go to like Iran and blow them up? Yeah. No, why don't we go to Alaska where there aren't people? We don't have to destroy the great wildlands or anything like that. There are areas where we could begin development. I went and visited Alaska last year. And I asked the locals who were there, I was like, would you be upset if the U.S. said they wanted to put development in like around these cities and start, doing energy stuff? They're like, oh, that'd be fantastic. We'd love to see that. It'd make our lives get better. I'm sure there are a lot of people who disagree, but on average, people that I talked to were there were like, oh, that'd be great. Our economy would improve. We'd get more tourists. We'd get more jobs. Development would be fantastic, but they won't do it. So why are we in?
Why won't they do it, by the way? What is
the answer that I was told? I think it was Daniel Turner and Jack Posobiec were talking about this, that it's the wealthy playground. The ultra wealthy elites, that's their safe haven where they want to go and say, no, you can't touch ours.
Okay.
I would think that it's probably more cost prohibitive to drill into frozen land for oil and gas, wouldn't it be?
I don't know if that matters. The question, of course, would be energy return on energy invested.
Right.
If it takes,
and then transit costs too because it's so far away.
Pipeline.
Yeah. Is there a pipeline though?
Yeah, but you'd have to run it through Canada.
Yeah, I bet there is. Let me pull up a pipeline map, oil pipeline map.
I remember the Gulf, as you're pulling that up, the Gulf, that Gulf oil spill. What was that, like 15 years ago?
Oh, BP?
Yeah.
That was huge.
Horrific.
Oh, the first thing I should say is, there's a pipeline. I went to it.
Oh.
It's massive. It spans the whole state, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go outside of Alaska. Okay. So it's actually cool. I think we were in Fairbanks. I can't remember. And we went on a snowmobile tour. I think that was in Fairbanks, wasn't it? And we actually rode along the pipeline. It's massive. And but my point is this. Are we better off doing nation building in Afghanistan or Alaska?
Well, I think it's clearly here. I think the argument, and I know this is kind of going against Michael Malice's rule and breaking your binary options that you're proffering, but I think the better option would be to tax the American people less and allow for the free market to decide what is actually an investment that's viable, as opposed to this kind of technocratic approach that we're going to manage the economy, be it nation building abroad or nation building domestically. This is my concern with Donald Trump's second term, in fact, is that he's been proposing kind of these like American cities rebirth project. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, what is it?
I don't know the details. I read it months ago. I did know the details. I can't remember exactly, but he was talking about basically like federal funding to build these new cities so that there'd be affordable homes and jobs, and you'd bring back domestic production. And it's like, I don't think that's actually how you fix this country. I think the way you fix this country is through sound money, deregulation, ending the wars, bringing our troops home. And I think that would actually do way more than any of his, well-laid plans.
I agree. And we're going to go to Super Chats. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you do like it. Head over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member and support our work directly. but for $10 per month, you can help us fight the fake news with our counter-programming. Monday through Friday, we're live at 8 p.m. We also have the morning show and the culture war. And all of this is possible thanks to you guys as members. But don't forget, as a member, get in that Discord server, hang out with like-minded individuals, and you can submit questions to actually join our members' call-in show Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. Let's grab your super chats. We got Token Black Guy who says, howdy, people. TGIF. Indeed, TGIF. TGIF indeed. Point Curation says, you run a good show, Tim. I appreciate the compliment. I do indeed. All right. Alpha Turkey asks, can Vivek replace Clarence Thomas for Supreme Court?
Yeah,
yes.
Eventually.
Yes.
I think he should take over J.D. Vance's Senate seat in Ohio.
Yeah. It's how many, a couple years left, right?
Yeah.
2, is it?
Yeah, and then he could run again.
Yeah.
Well, with JD getting out, wouldn't they have a special election?
It's an appointment, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
And the
Yeah, governor appoints it,
governor's
right?
a Republican.
So he could appoint Vivek theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
All right. World Citizen says the brain worm driving RFK Jr. appears to be a patriot on a mission to save America. Jokes aside, he gets much respect for this. Fight, fight, fight. It is not just a white pill moment. It is a divine, glowing, holy white pill that has descended from the heavens, and I have never felt so
On
optimistic.
top of that, they wash it down with My Hero by the Foo Fighters. Nice move, guys.
That was a good one too. Yeah.
Good.
It's as I said in the open, like I am so jaded. It's unbelievable after covering the news consistently since 2020 to today. And this was like one of those days, one of those moments where you're just like, oh, there's a chance, man. Like we got a fighting chance here.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
special.
Benjamin says, can I get a shout out for my friend's new album just released on Spotify, American Deployed by Greg Whalen. Greg is a veteran that was active in the despicable retreat from Afghanistan. His experience there led to this album, Protest Folk, as my brother called it. Amazing. Cool. American Deployed. Guys, check it out. Shout out Benjamin. Thanks for the super chat.
Nice.
And check out that music. Very cool. All right. Fungus Among Us says, Harrison Tinsley put the blue gum under the table. Here's $5. I think we should give him a pass. All right, fine.
Is it true?
Did you say what the punishment for doing this was? Or
I said I was going to post the video footage of it.
Oh.
Just shame.
I was kidding.
A shame. He's not getting sentenced to
You would've done it?
prison.
I'm petty.
Oh, I would have posted it for sure. That'd be hilarious.
In slow motion.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the footage. We found it.
You're a scumbag.
We have the footage. We have the security camera up top. And I was like, it records 24/7, but it's like, I think only 3 months, and then it
Sure.
buffer. Actually, no, I think it saves everything until we run out of space, and then it starts doing the buffer.
Right.
And so we were pretty sure we knew who did it right away.
Surge, pull it up.
In the future, man.
But every single, like, not literally, but almost every guest replied to my tweet. Not me. I didn't do it.
All
That was my
future
favorite
guests.
part.
There's
They're
a
like, I
trash
am not a
can.
part of this.
We were talking about that at PragerU. They're like,
Everyone's
Xavier.
got a trash can at their
There's a
at their
trash
seat.
can right here under the table. Everyone knows it now.
But every seat has a trash can.
Yeah. Even if you're nervous, bend out of the frame, go take a piss, do whatever you got to do, relax.
I hadn't
throw
been
it in
on
the trash can.
I hadn't been on since the move to the new studio, so I didn't feel threatened that I had to respond and proclaim my innocence.
It got like 1,000 retweets. I was like, geez, I thought you thought it was a
Citizen journalism,
joke.
man. They
Yeah.
wanna find out.
Let's go. What do we have here? A Prada says, big fan, Tim. Please share Dan Bongino's tweet about RFK tonight. Help everyone share Dan's post to wake up everyone's leftist relative or friend. What was the tweet?
Yeah. And do we really need to help Dan Bongino go more viral?
Well, sure.
I
I
mean, he
mean,
was black for the
I'm just saying, he's doing all right.
You did.
I thought that man was black until
He's
like
not?
earlier.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I thought he was like half black.
I thought he was black.
He's got to have black
'Cause
ancestry.
I was giving a list of black conservatives.
see race,
and
so
people
I had no
started
idea.
laughing at me when I said Dan Bongino.
Wait, is he not like? Is he? Oh, Bongino is that
Somebody
Italian?
call Dan right now. Get him to tell us what his heritage is.
Dude,
But a
he's
lot of-
he's
I'm
like
sorry, I took
The
his black
Italians
card
were
away.
invaded by the Moors like in
Oh,
1,000 years ago, so
man,
there
you're
might
gonna
be
go there.
ancestry.
You're gonna go
crossover.
true romance on me. I love it. I love it, Ian.
Up through Sicily, I think, is where the invasions
The
were
Moors,
happening.
yeah.
There's a lot of
Dennis
conflict.
Hopper gave a very legendary speech about this topic.
Token Black Guy says, hey, Tim, John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Everyone always says set instead of make. Indeed, they do. Indeed. Modernisms. All right. Brian says, it's surreal watching this election cycle. What will eventually be a chapter in a history book, seeing what RFK did just the latest. Don't recall seeing another party dropping and endorsing another. Can we just talk about that? Everything that has happened so far, even with RFK's endorsement, is just like they have crammed 8,000 historical moments into one election cycle. That's nuts.
It's been a little over 5 weeks since a bullet grazed a former president's head, and it's like it never even happened. It's nuts. Joe Biden is the sitting president. We talk about him as if he's deceased. He doesn't even exist.
They sent him to
Crazy.
California. They didn't even want him at their convention. They're
I know.
like, get out of here.
Ugh.
I know what's happening. We're on the human Earth is on season 2024, and people are getting bored with it, and the writers are just like, we got to go nuts.
Like, what haven't we done yet? Just throw everything at the wall.
It's like Rick and Morty after sexual assault allegations. It's just,
Oh, jeez.
The script is just broken at this point. That's what the American people are dealing with.
Well, I'm saying, like, in 2015, the showrunners, the production company comes to the writers of Earth, and they're like, guys, ratings are in the trash can. We've been doing this for 2015 years, but no show lasts forever. You better turn things around. We need something exciting. And they're like, wait. What if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States?
They're like,
And,
no,
okay,
no,
I'm listening.
Hold on. Hear me out.
Okay.
Donald Trump. And they're like,
Donald Trump,
okay,
huh? People love him. People love this
But
guy.
first, you got to hate him. So Obama birth certificate thing, and then he'll run for president. Okay.
They're like, well, no, look. I mean, people like watching him, but are they going to watch president? Okay, well, what about the other half hate him, and we
for
do
no
this,
reason,
and they accuse him of being a spy. So then you get Trump, who's this famous guy everybody loves watching, but he's also a spy.
And then
you pick and choose.
But then simultaneously, the true story is that the FBI is actually spying on him. He's not a Russian asset. They're spying on him because they're traitors. Look, honestly, the script is pretty good. I know
it is epic. Dude. Kim Jong-un is like kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously a villain, but
Comedy relief.
kind of an anti-hero,
You know the guy that played power forward for the Chicago Bulls from 1994 to 1996? He's going to make peace with him.
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman.
1995. Have you seen the Illuminati card game that has predicted an insane amount of stuff that has
have it.
happened? You do? Oh, I gotta
Card
see it.
game?
I don't want to touch it though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's in a box somewhere. I don't know. We have a whole bunch of board games and everything, and we got that one game.
Have you guys seen that? Where they have cards of like Trump, and they have cards about like two planes hitting the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait,
all of this
I
is
didn't
in
know
a
that.
card game.
It was created-
in 1995.
What?
Yes, but it's
used to play it.
it's not weird.
in high school.
So a lot of people are like, how could they have made the Twin Towers being hit? Oh,
Because it was attacked in 91,
it was
right?
attacked in 91, and they repeatedly talked about how they were serious targets for terror attacks.
But I
93?
I did think it is interesting
93?
because so often there was this montage of like 7 or 8 different cartoons that were put out in the 1990s, including The Simpsons, a whole bunch of others that just kept showing the WTC get hit by flying.
Yeah, that could have been predictive programming. It's tough to tell.
Now,
Yeah,
we live in a
it's just interesting.
So you can call it a simulation, but what I don't like about simulation is that it separates the universe from God. Simulation is what nerds try to use to justify creationism. No, it's not God creating us. We were created by an advanced race who built a simulation. I'm like, okay, dude, you semantics. Okay,
Yeah.
Construct. We're in a construct.
Yeah,
a powerful entity created a
assembling
construct.
You-
Self-assembling?
that's-
No, I'm
yeah,
not.
It's
not
self-assembling.
at all.
I feel like the things you say are going to happen, and especially if you have a lot of people listening to you.
So you sound like Oprah with The Gift back in 2000.
Yeah.
It's so weird how it happens. Like,
Which, by the way, Oprah, can I just quick riff?
Ian will be president.
Wait, what? Oh, we're just
saying it.
we're gonna manifest it. I like it. Ian will be president.
And I use the motorcade just for clout reasons.
It's going to be
make it out of
it's going to be
graphene.
20 years,
You guys
and
are being-
Ian's going to be a billionaire off his graphene investments. He's going to be developing a whole lot of crazy technology. He's going to use that money to run for office. He's going to be this middle of the road guy. They're going to try and pull up clips of him being hyper partisan, but they won't be able to find him. And he's constantly defending both sides, and they'll have no means of attack. He'll end up winning by like a couple points, becoming president, and then he will be
He'll probably die like
58th president.
traversing Antarctica trying to find the end of Earth. What do you think?
that would be like a blaze of glory, man.
Anyways,
Maybe when
let
I'm
me,
like 170, I'll go down
You
there.
want to talk about Oprah?
I just want to blast
Who
Oprah for a
backed
second.
Donald Trump before anyone else.
Yes, well, that's true. So there's obviously hypocrisy here too. But what really drove me nuts is for her to get up there and to have the audacity as a black woman in America who became a billionaire, probably multiple times over, largely predicated off of the fact that we aren't a racist nation, that white women to the tune of millions sent her $1 billion+ in profit over the years, and she still gets up there and lectures the American people that she had to fight income inequality and racism and blah 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 blah. I just don't know how they don't have more shame. And it's not just Oprah. I mean, you got Nancy Pelosi going up there, rich as all get out. Hillary Clinton going up there, Bill Clinton going up there, super rich. And you got the Bidens, obviously. You have the House Congressional Oversight that comes out saying there's really compelling evidence that they, grifted their family $28 million off of selling the American people out. Like, all of these people are absurdly wealthy. Just the nerve to get up there and lecture the American people about income inequality makes me sick.
It's also funny that they had so many people going up there being like, oh, the Democrats were for the working class, were for the people that are working hard to build America, and then talking all this crap about how the Republicans are just a whole bunch of billionaires and politicians backed by billionaires. But then you have billionaires come on the stage for you. You have all these billionaires. You have
J.B. Pritzker too.
Yeah, Governor of Illinois. You got Oprah. Yeah. You got all these people going up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's grab some. We got Copper Lobo says RFK is a net positive, but can we please stop saying the Democrats are the party of civil rights? They are the party of the KKK, civil rights bill filibuster, and inner city abortion clinics. You are correct, and I respect that. I still respect RFK saying what happened to my party because that's what they thought. And so here's a guy who took the red pill hard. Oh, wait, the Democrats are actually the bad guys. What happened? Look, we can get into the whole history of your party, but all I'm saying right now is RFK is saying something's wrong with my party. Can I join yours? Well, yes, please, right this way. Yeah. We can have that conversations in the greater detail later, but if this dude's saying this is our path forward, it's our path forward, then...
That's what I think was so remarkable about his willingness to do this. I mean, he campaigned for a long time, and he had lots of members of his family come out and just basically say, like, he is embarrassing our family. He does not carry on the legacy of his own father. Imagine the nerve to tell a son that he is not carrying on the legacy of his father as he's literally running for president of the United States. These people are so reprehensible, but this is what kind of put me on the path of trusting in his truth telling, like that he was actually sincere.
I want the Kennedys, all you guys, to know that what Bobby has done will reignite a love for your family for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. The guy's super legit.
Are you talking to the Kennedy family?
Yeah, anybody that's worried about the leg, Bobby is the man.
Oh, dude, this photo of Trump and RFK Jr. with the fireworks going off.
It ain't exactly the. But it's up there. It's
still pretty cool, though. And I think it does, strike terror to the hearts of people who are hoping that they could just... Because there were so many Democratic-led campaigns to try and get Kennedy off the ballot in places where he had fairly won access to it. And they're led by Democrats. Like, his party really sold him out. And I think that despite the fact that everyone was like, he takes votes from Trump, takes votes from Trump, it wasn't there were no Republican right-wing organizations trying to run him off the ballot. They were Democrats.
Exactly.
So I think there is a fear of the influence he has over the nation.
And that, I think, was the most compelling argument for RFK to ultimately end up endorsing Trump, is that it was not Trump. It was not the GOP machine that was trying to ruin him. It was the Democrats. It was his own party. I mean, absolutely vicious. By the way, I just came up with the greatest idea imaginable. And if there's any AI specialists out there, like... what I want you guys to do is take the footage of Bobby Kennedy shirtless a year ago doing the incline press, and I want you to transition him to walking into CIA headquarters. I'm telling you, it'll go super viral. Just do it. Thank you. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Yeah.
It's a good day, man.
Right now.
Denny D. Alelio says, RFK has my votes to win the walkaway video contest.
Oh my gosh, he should do the walkaway video contest.
Or at the very least, Brandon should be like, honorable mention who did not enter but has one of the best walkaway videos ever. Here's RFK Jr.
He should be a judge for the contest. They should bring him on as a special guest judge.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, RFK Jr.'s speech today was the best walkaway video I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs the $10,000 though.
Scathing.
I mean, the way he just so masterfully obliterated every single institution that I despise, from like the CIA to the FBI to HHS to the CDC to the, and then he goes, and then to the DNC, and then to CNN, and then it's just like kept going, hour plus beat down. It was awesome. It made me feel just joyous. It really did. I'm sorry, I loved it. I love it when my enemies get what's coming to them.
All right, here we go. Just Leave Me Alone says, I never thought a Democrat suspending his race would bring me to tears. This was a godsend. We, the MAGA, welcome RFK Jr. and all his supporters. Save the children.
We, the MAGA.
Absolutely.
Wild.
This is why I'm saying you got to be, it's important to be nice to the moderates trying to win them over, because you do. RFK coming over means there's a whole lot of moderates who don't want to say vote Trump, who have the door open for them by RFK. Joe Rogan said RFK Jr. is the only one who makes sense. What happens now when RFK says, "Come on, Joe, we're going to have to get behind Donald Trump on this one." What's Joe going to say to that?
Well, this is exactly why I got so frustrated, and it makes me feel absurd to even talk about it because of his handle. But Cat Turd, I'm talking to you. The way he went after anybody that was like not just hard in the paint, 100% zealot for Donald Trump. It's like that is exactly the reason that RFK ultimately endorsed Donald Trump, is because he kept the door open.
Yeah, the left is nuts. We don't want to act like them.
No, I don't want to be them at all.
Yeah,
the whole reason I'm fighting them is because I don't want to be them.
And imagine if they were the party that was accepting and open and willing to debate, then this would be a very different country. But as RFK Jr. points out, censorship, war, the rich, big pharma, they will shut you down. They will tell you to shut up, fall in line, or else. And the right, for the longest time, has been the party of, oh man, that's really messed up what they're doing to you.
Right.
That's it. That's the famous comic where the blue guy pushes the person in the middle to the red guy and then says, "Why are you joining them?" Dude, when I was at Berkeley, I went to get dinner. Afterwards, a bunch of Trump supporters were like, "We're going to go eat, Tim. Why don't you come hang out with us?" And we disagreed. And we sat down and we ordered food. I can't remember where we were at. Big table full of some of the biggest Trump supporters in like 2017 or whatever. And they're all talking. And then I talked to them about a lot of stuff we talked about in the culture war today, like redlining, blockbusting in Chicago. And I said, I think a lot of conservatives don't ever hear real arguments because the woke have given this crackpot racist argument of like segregating DEI or whatever. We didn't call it DEI, but it was like the POC and non-POC stuff. Right. And I was like, actually being in Chicago, like, here's what I see. And the Trump supporters were like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And that was the end. Nobody said, hey, Tim, vote for Trump. Nobody said you're a dumb liberal. They were just like, well, here's what we think. And that was it. That opened the door for me and a lot of people who watch the show probably to be like, yeah, there's a real chance here. Ben Shapiro will debate you. Right. He'll be nice to you. He'll tell you you're wrong, and he'll be nice to you if you're nice to him. The left will physically attack you and throw bricks through your window.
Well, exactly. And this is why I took this kind of personally, is because just coincidentally, I happened to be at the Young Americans for Liberty event in Orlando with Dave Smith and Josie, the redhead libertarian, and Kyle Rittenhouse was like standing 30 feet away from me, and I had just seen Cat Turd trying to ruin the kid's life. And I walked up to Kyle and I talked to him for about 15, 20 minutes just to see, like, what's the angle? Why are you writing in Ron Paul, which, by the way, immediately strikes me deeply in my heart. That is the most beautiful sentiment imaginable, obviously. But I just wanted to see, what the spirit of it was. And it was like, yeah, I just met Ron Paul for the first time yesterday and I tweeted it out. And now everyone wants me to die, and it was like, and it was just so obviously sincere and from the heart. And he was, he was kind of in a panic. And I was like, I just gave him a big hug and I was like, nice to meet you, dude. I think you're an American hero. I think it'll cool down. And fortunately it has.
I want everybody watching to just manifest Trump winning. We're just going to manifest it. Ian thinks it's true. So send your vibes to the moon to bounce it off the moon and send it back to Earth so that Trump wins. Because I'm just imagining what it'll be like if November 6th, PA is like, we're not going to have the results for a long time. What if it's so overwhelming? They're like, nah, it doesn't matter what PA says. Trump's got 305 electoral votes or whatever. I'm just imagining what that day is going to be like when we're going to go to the river. We're going to take some inner tubes and we're just going to sit on those inner tubes and just float and just sit back and be like, this is the day.
I think we need to get another yacht in Miami. Sorry, this is just me pitching you to get me another yacht. That was so fun, dude.
That was fun.
Yeah, we went to Miami and we rented a boat and everybody was on it partying.
It was quite a boat.
Alex Stein was dancing.
You got to get to work immediately when he wins. We got to immediately.
That's true.
Start working on
That's
stuff.
true, but we will celebrate.
Yeah, well, the work is the celebration.
Well, we celebrate
For
first.
me, anyway. I celebrate now.
This is actually a really good point. Trump winning is actually just the starting line. And that's when things get, I wouldn't say harder. Like right now is hard. Getting Trump and people like Vivek and RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, this is amazing what we're seeing. The people he's brought around him so far has been really great news.
Agreed.
And the commission on JFK and RFK. Let's get it. He better. Because people say things. That means when Trump does win, we better make sure that commission happens. We better make sure those good people stay. So that's where the work begins. But I would call that more tedious at that point.
Yeah.
Getting Trump past that finish line. The next part is the tedium of maintaining and seeing through everything we want to see through.
I generally agree with that, but I just want to add another part of my wish list. Please free Ross Ulbricht, Snowden, Assange. Snowden's free. Or excuse me, Assange is free, but I think Snowden. Oh, you think it will happen?
I think it happens.
That'd be beautiful.
Ross,
I think Trump goes nuclear. I mean, the fact that he said, and again, I want to stress, he just said, we'll see. We're going to need to keep his feet to the fire when he does win. But I think it's more likely than not because Trump. Look, there's a lot of diehard Trump supporters who don't want to accept that he's got an ego. And, you know, when Brandon Strzok was here, with all due respect to Brandon, I said, I think Trump is very much motivated by wanting people to like him. And there are a lot of Trump supporters who are like, no, he's altruistic. He's trying to help everybody. And I'm like, big golden Trump on buildings in every city. Okay, dude, it's not bad that you want people to like you. I'm not saying that's a vice or, you know, Donald Trump's.
We all want to be liked to some extent.
If Donald Trump's largely motivated by wanting to be liked, that means he's trying to help as many people as possible because he wants people to like and respect him. That's great. That's fantastic. It'd be weird if he was like, I don't care if they like me at all. I'll do. No, people
it's kind of sociopathic at that point if you don't care at all.
Yeah, so I do believe that Trump will deliver on his promises because he doesn't want to be the guy whose honor was challenged.
Well, and I think the other side of that coin is that they took a shot at him.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole reason I think he didn't deliver in his first term is because, one, he didn't understand the inner workings of D.C., but two, he thought that if he kind of schmoozed them and did the businessman thing where he's like, I'm going to be respectful and nice and you'll be my buddy and then we'll work together and we'll advance some things and I'll give you this and you'll give me that. We'll compromise. And they're like, you don't understand. You're not the president.
Yep.
The intelligence agencies run everything. And it's like, okay, I didn't get that after 4 years, but then after you guys spied on me with the FBI and then tried to impeach me twice off of nonsense and then took a shot at me, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's no more Mr. Nice Guy.
How many deep state intelligence guys do you think are sitting in their room in the dark, rocking back and forth with a hip flask, swigging away, being like, if this guy wins, we're in trouble, man.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely a lot of people that are looking for work.
Trump looking for work, looking for countries to live in. Donald Trump
crossed
saying,
my mind, yeah.
we're going to release the documents on JFK, RFK on January 13th. You've got people who are going like, oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, crap.
Well, what he really needs to do is add J6 to that.
Yeah.
I would very much like to know about the device outside, feet away from Kamala Harris, who's now the chosen one to be the president of the United States, and we have no information on that.
I want to
too.
I got to get this one more in. Space is cool, man. With I think he wins the best super chat. Brat Summer Nuclear Winter.
Oh Jesus!
That was a good one. That was a good one.
And Demir Autumn.
Space is
Mindful.
All right, everybody. If you haven't already, smash that like button. 1 like equals 1. Fight, fight, fight. Become a member at timcast.com to support our work. It's going to be a great weekend. We have clips coming up throughout the weekend for you. We're back on Monday. Let me check the guest list and see who we got on Monday. It's going to be Joseph McBride Esquire. So it'll be a fun show, of course, and there'll be a lot of developments over the weekend with whatever happened with this RFK Jr. rally stuff. We'll see how it starts affecting the news and the polls. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL on Instagram. You can follow me personally on X and Instagram at Timcast. Clint, do you want to shout anything out?
I would love to. Clint Russell is the name. Liberty Lockdown is the flagship for my own personal solo show where I have guests and things like that. Just had Ron Paul on. It was very cool. Also Ian Carroll, bunch of awesome guests. But I also do the best political show with a Polish man who does not have a name. That's all I have to say about him. It's We Are Change over on Rumble. We go live 3 nights a week, 6 to 8. But I do have another co-host. She's the button pusher named Steph. She has a name. The other person does not have a name. Anyways, I also do Tower Gang with a bunch of lunatics, and it's really racist and stupid. Don't watch that.
All right. Xavier, do you want to
at Liberty Lockpod on X, and subscribe there. I'll follow you back. There you go.
Thanks again for having me. So I'm Xaviaer DuRousseau from Prager University. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, believe it or not, TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, all at Xavier. That's Xaviaer, and on X at Xavier D.
I'm Ian Crossland. Because I am ethically bound by my friendships and doing what's right, I will mention his name. His name is Luke Rudkowski. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Luke Rudkowski in the best political show on YouTube and Rumble.
Ian, when he was guest hosting at the RNC and all, like 7 times over the past 6 months, he never once mentioned my name.
What?
I just want you to know that I have done 140 shows with him over the past year. He did not say my name.
Also, special shout out to Stephanie Marie, who does push the buttons on the best political show, the heartbeat of the episodes.
That's right.
Check it out.
She does have a name.
And Tower Gang. I think it's every Thursday or Tuesday.
It's every
or
Wednesday at 9/11 Eastern.
Love it. And I'm Ian Crossland. Follow you later.
I love that you're on Threads. I feel like you're in a mission field that way. You're really bringing culture there. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. Follow their work at Timcast News on the internet. If you want to follow me, I'm Hannah Claire B or HannahClaire.B on Instagram. I'm Hannah Claire B on Twitter. Thanks for everything you guys do. Have a good night.
We will see you all next week, Monday. We'll be back at 10 a.m. at youtube.com/TimcastNews for the morning live show. Don't miss it. We'll see y'all then.